Hello and welcome back to Xbox Infinite. What a week. It has been an absolutely massive week and I slept in again. And how's everyone going today? We've got an awesome guest to talk about these awesome topics because a lot's happened this week. It's been a massive week in gaming. Asa, man, how you doing? What have you been up to? What have you been playing? What have you been watching? What do you like about the show? We'll get all into that.
Stuff has been happening this week, has it? I don't know. I've spent some of the afternoon going through the tutorial on my first Total War game, and it's supplanted everything else in my brain. I've been learning how to siege fortresses and things. So I don't know. There was like an Xbox show or something. It's a distant memory now, but yeah, we'll get into it.
I don't know. Everyone's been talking about this Xbox show. It's been everyone has a different opinion, whether it was good, whether it was bad. Cutie, how you doing? You obviously watched the Xbox show. We watched it together. How you doing? What have you been up to? What have you been playing? You been busy?
Oh my god, yes. The show was awesome. If you didn't catch our watch party, go back and watch it. Yeah. What have I been playing? Well, last night I streamed Forza Horizon 5. Had a great time. Ended up with a little bit of grouping issues at the end. But still love it.
Oh, it's a great game. Great game. Yeah, we played with Dealer, man. And
Yeah, that was fun.
I beat him in every single race. That's a lie. Jedi, how you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Yeah, great. Yeah, we have receipts for that. I've actually taken a few pictures of us being ahead of Dealer. That will stay.
I've beaten Dealer, not last night, but I have.
Because he loves that game.
He's
Yeah,
very
we
good.
wanted to put Monad and Dealer up against each other because, Monad's like, that's his jam, Forza. But yeah, I'm great. Really looking forward to the show. Amazing to have Asa from the one and only Game on Daily on the show. Second time coming through, so we must be doing something right if he's going to grace us with his presence a second time. Can't wait to talk about the showcase. Let's do it, guys.
I know, right? The dude's
Not
famous.
just presents. I made myself massively attractive and stuff. I did my best because Riskit told me we were all on camera today.
Yeah.
But then I find that we're not.
Yeah.
I've made myself pretty for no reason.
Oh, you can send us a selfie if you like.
We are going to go camera. It is going to happen, but I just had a bit of a wild week. Everyone in the entire house is sick, except for me. That's because I sleep so much. Umbra, how you doing, man? How's your week been? What have you been up to? Getting hyped.
Oh, I've been all right. Yeah, man, I've been all right. It's been a good week for us, I think, on the Xbox side of things. So yeah, I'm hyped. Still hyped about the show, and I still actually excited to chop it up with Asa today.
Absolutely, man. Look, let's get straight to the topics because it's been a bit of a wild week, and there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, first thing I'll go into is the showcase, the Xbox Showcase. Of course, we're definitely going to talk about that. Now, to me, I already had what I want. I already had Callisto Protocol. I already had Dead Space 2 coming. That space horror stuff that's on the screen right now, that's kind of my jam. Look, I think the show was a bit middling, right? I think it was it lost its pacing in the middle. The second show, probably they could have pulled some things out of that second show and stuck it in that first show. And that would have fixed the pacing. They could have taken the Chainsaw Massacre and put it in the first show. Stalker could have been in that first show. Instead of some of these smaller indies, which kind of just slowed down that pacing through the middle. I don't like to rate these showcases. But if you guys want it, that's absolutely fine. But look, it wasn't bad. I like the overall idea of it. Them giving us an idea of what's coming in the next 12 months is a good thing. They showed about 33 games, so it wasn't a light on content. I just don't know if it's content for everyone. Jedi, what did you think of it?
Look, I gave it a 7 watching it live, but we did the watch party, so it was incredibly difficult to focus on, everything we were doing, responding to the chat. I couldn't really watch it the way I wanted to watch it, plus the stream was compressed in 1080p. So then when I rewatched it, I gave it a 7.5. And now looking over it again, because I've watched it a few times since then, I think I'm going to push it up to an 8. And the reason I say that is because you go back and watch it, it's play it day one on Game Pass. Play it day one on Game Pass. And I think the Game Pass, although we have talked about it quite substantially over the last year, I think it's kind of lost its luster a little bit because we've expect it now. But if you look at the competition where their games aren't day one on Game Pass, it's incredibly exciting to be getting all these games coming out in the next 12-month period, which, I think a lot of people have, not sure whether or not, that was a good or a bad thing. I see it as a good thing. We're going to get to play these games sooner rather than later. And a lot of these games I wouldn't have played if they weren't coming to Game Pass. I mean, there's just no way that I would have bought, Forza Motorsport, a lot of the games, and we'll go through them a little bit later. And just to be able to play all those games, knowing that they're coming with the subscription service that that I'm on, I think the show was slow at times. Things that didn't need to be there were there, like Sea of Thieves, DLC for Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76. Those type of things, older games that we've already seen. Grounded, for example, although I know it's getting its full release, we knew that was coming. I think that these could have been in the extended showcase. But in saying that, I thought the show was fantastic.
Overall, fantastic. Yeah, look, after watching it, I think I've watched it now three, maybe even 4 times. And just, maybe that just ruins the excitement as if you overwatch it. I mean, there's definitely some bangers in there, but, or games that I really do want to play. But I just, I think everyone is rating this show on what wasn't there. And I think it's really hard to not rate this show on what wasn't there, especially after 2021. Asa, what did you think of the show?
So the 12 months thing is an interesting approach. I think the show would have been received very differently if they'd gone for 18 months, if they'd included that next holiday season and a couple of big announcements or bigger games that we're all expecting. 12 months, I can understand why they want to do that. I'm glad they focused on gameplay. The pacing of the show was decent enough. You've also got to consider that this is a move to how they want to do their shows going forwards, because Microsoft's pipeline of games is looking very different to what it would have been a year back, 2 back, 3 years back. So to move from showing CGI trailers for games that are 5 years away because that's all we've got, to actually now we've got studios that are making games and we're going to need to change the cadence of this. I think this was the first step towards a new show format that will land better in the years to come.
When they've actually got some games.
There's going to be more games, right? They've got ton of studios. They've got the 34 plus studios making a lot of games, and they're going to need to cram those in and make sure they all get their attention. So if they'd stuck to the previous format of games that are 2-3 years out, they wouldn't be giving good attention to the games that are coming in the next 12 months. So this is a change that needed to happen. I think for this one, mid-step, they probably should have done 18 months rather than 12. I think if they'd given us their 18-month outlook, I don't think anybody would have been disappointed. As it stands, feedback and response from their fans is a little bit mixed. Some people are happy and some people aren't.
What about yourself personally? What did you think of this? Was there anything in there for you?
There's loads of stuff in there for me because I've got quite broad taste in games anyway. So there's a lot of games there, but there weren't really any mass surprises. Apart from High on Life was a big surprise, but apart from that, we knew pretty much everything that was coming. It's not lack of quality, but
true.
lack of
there
that
were
big,
no surprises.
big hit announcement. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I was talking about this with Hargeet and Timmy, and we were of the opinion that I think you're right, Asa. I think this is the new way that Xbox is going to go about it going forward. But do you think that they would be better off or better served giving Xbox their own showcase, giving Bethesda their own showcase, and eventually, when the deal goes through, probably early in 2023, giving Activision Blizzard King their own showcase? Because putting all of them together. Yeah, I mean, there's just no way you can go over that 12-month period because the show will go for 3 hours. It'll be really interesting in how they go about that in the future.
So I would say, I hope anyway, they need to have more shows. Once a year isn't enough anyway. People want more than that. I don't think the correct separation would be Xbox, Bethesda, Activision. So I think they want to keep that identity kind of merged in the ways that matter to them and make sure that people are associating those other companies with Xbox, regardless of where their games are going. So yeah, there needs to be some distinction, just not necessarily that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Doom,
more
what-
along the lines of an indie showcase and then a AAA showcase or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think. Look,
Yeah, just separating out the games, just more showcases.
I would agree with that. Absolutely, I think they need to have smaller little bites throughout the year just to keep that excitement going. But with this big AAA showcase, Pete, maybe that's a good idea. But when have you ever seen an EA showcase by itself that you've got super excited for? I honestly can't remember one. So I think keeping these grouped together, even if it's a longer show, I think that's a good thing to do. That gives it content, that gives it that enormity, that wow factor. I think they definitely need to keep doing that. I think they just need to have games that they show. Doom Cutie, what did you think of the show overall?
On that comment about, it being extended to 18 months. Yep. Look, probably people would have been more satisfied with the show if it was showing 18 months in the future, like what's being released 18 months in the future. However, like I don't know. I consider these events like Christmas, like once a year is enough for me, and it's really exciting. And I think if we had like small bite-sized shows over the year, I feel like it would lose the excitement. Like we already get monthly updates in the Game Pass, so I really don't think it's necessary. Overall in the show, I just noticed in the chat, Boba actually said that people's opinions is weighing too much on, I guess because it's a positive, I suppose, or we see it as a positive, what other people might like, and we're basing it on that. And you know what? I said this on Doomsayer's podcast just before. They didn't sit down at a table and they were like, oh, what does Doom Cutie like? We're just gonna make a show just for her. This show is for everyone. So not every game is gonna be, AAA banger, like what you love, what you at the end of the day, who has the time to play 34 games? Like it's, I don't know. It just, I feel like not every game is for me. But, the lull in the middle of the show, I think you're right, Risker. I think if they would have added some of the stuff from the extended show into that, it would have made it a bit better, but probably they would have gone over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just weirdly paced, man. I mean, there's no... The way that they set it out with some of those smaller indies like Pentiment would have been better in the second showcase. I mean, I've spoken to some people that are actually pretty excited for Pentiment, but mainly because of who's making it, not from what it actually is, and listening to what it is, because they did a bit of a deep dive later on Pentiment. That to me was it just didn't need to be there. It's a smaller indie game. It's Obsidian taking a shot at something that they want to take a shot at. You know what I mean? I don't think it's necessarily made. It's made for a very niche audience, and I think that, don't get me wrong, not all niche audience games should be taken out, but there should be it should be a larger niche game in the middle of it just slowed down the pacing, like
no, but you know what?
Really bad.
I'm just gonna say, like, the goal of Xbox, or one of the goals of Xbox, is they're actually bringing indie developers and the little guys. They're trying to bring them up into the spotlight, and I think that's a wonderful thing that they're doing. And I know that it seems like maybe not a waste of time, but I mean, looking forward, I think combining the games that have a large following, big companies, with those little guys,
but
who's to say
Obsidian's not an indie developer. Obsidian's a first-party
No.
huge developer.
No.
So like that.
No, I know
games like
that, but you're
should
talking
be-
about you're talking about the lull in the show in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, but in closing, overall,
Just quickly ask Ace a question because he's turning off his air conditioner and I want to see the awkward silence.
Yeah.
Is my crackling gone? I'm sorry. Some people in chat were saying that my audio was crackling and it hurts my soul.
It was
Oh.
snap, crackly, and poppy. I sent you a message on Discord, but you ignored me.
I do. I've got you blocked. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's definitely better. Doom, sorry to cut you off there. What were you saying
Okay.
in closing?
Nah. Look, in closing, overall, it was I think it was a solid show. It wasn't incredible, like it wasn't a 10 out of 10, but it was definitely like, like Pete said, going back, looking at it in, higher quality, when we weren't on the watch party, definitely an 8 out of 10 for me.
An 8 out of 10. All right, we're rating stuff. Well, just quickly get your rate. If we're going to rate things, Acer, I'll get your rating before we move on to Umbra. What do you rate it?
7 out of 10. Sure, why not?
7 out of 20. All right, gotcha. Pete, what are you rating it before we move to Umbra?
I said, and I've changed my rating 3 times, so I don't know how much my rating counts. But I on replay for the 3rd time, I give it an 8. And I have asked the chat. I'd like to know what the chat thinks as well. Mr. Joanna Dark, incredibly intelligent gentleman, gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. Great minds think alike. So.
I think you guys are just wearing your Xbox caps. Umbra! Mate.
I don't have an Xbox cap.
Oh, well, we'll send you one. Umbra, what did you think of the show? What were your thoughts? What were your standouts? Talk to me. Or maybe he's not going to talk to me. Umbra's disappeared.
And there is that awkward silence.
Umbra's turning off his air conditioner. Hi, my name is Umbra. I just wanted to give the show a rating, and I thought it was...
Risk it. That's me.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
No, hold up. I'll do Umbra. Hey guys, what's up? Hey, chat. I just wanted to...
Need to be a little deeper than that.
I wanted to send out my love. Thank you all for showing up and supporting us. It's
That's terrible. That's absolutely.
You can't do Umbra without singing. Like
no! Don't you guys start singing and it's a go. No. Umbra, what do you? Oh my God! What did you guys think? What did you think of the showcase?
It's funny. Pete said that he had to change his rating 3 times to get to the great minds think alike of 8, like Mr. Joanna Dark. But I got there originally. I was already at an 8. I just want to point that out. But no, I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. I think it's well deserved because, like Pete had pointed out a while ago, for one, they showed gameplay trailers from beginning to end. Just about everything was shown with actual gameplay, which is what people had complained about and said they wanted to see. So now then, once we got it, the goalpost moved to, well, we needed to see something that's from a few years out. But the complaint before was that they were showing games that were too far out. So they showed us 12 months. So Microsoft is really in a place where they can't win for losing. So I thought they did everything people complained about. And and they did everything people complained about and properly showed us and gave us reason to be excited. And like Asa, I play a lot of different things, a lot of different genres. And so I don't need to just see some big AAA. I need to see a lot of everything, including indies. And I saw that. So I'm very much pleased about that. I also saw some things that I might not even care to necessarily get into that I can see, be excited for other people on the Xbox side of things, like the Persona thing. I might not ever actually get to that, right? But I know that there are a ton of Xbox fans who actually really did want that series and have been calling for it for years. And I mean, think about how big it is because it's not even on the Switch like that. So to get it over here on the Xbox side of things, that's pretty major. And I think people kind of underscore that overall when it deserves much more credit when you look at things. So yeah, and my standouts, of course, was Starfield. That was just spectacular. I've said it during the showcase when we watched it and everything, and I'm still there. Flintlock was my second most because funny enough, about the third person over the shoulder action, AAA, that looked just like something that Sony would probably put out in some ways. Just gorgeous looking game. I like the action, everything else like that. And of course, like if we had to go by the most impressive, that would be Forza Motorsport without question. So, and there goes Flintlock right there. Speaking of the devil, but yeah, Forza Motorsport was probably the most impressive overall just technically. We had a question, by the way, from
Mr. Joanna
Mr.
Dark. Do
Absolutely.
you want to fire that one away?
So, yeah, let me read it once I can get back to it.
Just while it's on screen, Flintlock was definitely a standout for me. I think this is something that I think Xbox fans have been asking for. Is a third-person over-the-shoulder action adventure exclusive. I don't know why. We do get plenty of them third-party, man. So I mean, I agree that Xbox has to have that diversity. But look, it's great to see them bringing something to the party. I don't know if you would call this a AAA though. This would be under the AA moniker, right?
I think
Well,
it's AAA.
because it's coming day one to Game Pass, I really don't differentiate between that and first party anymore. I know that's probably not the best way to look at things, but the fact of the matter is it's coming day one to Game Pass, guys. Plague's Tale Requiem, another third-person over-the-shoulder game, that we're not going to have to pay for. We're going to get it in Game Pass, so incredibly
That's actually a good
exciting to be
point.
getting these games coming to the subscription service.
That's
But
actually a good
before
point right there.
you
But
go
hold
on
on,
with
before
the
you go,
question, Umbra, I
before
just
you go, I
wanted
was
to
going to
shout out.
say I agree with you on
Yeah,
that.
mate.
That the fact that it's not first party kind of makes it irrelevant since we have it on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I just want to shout out to everyone who's in the chat. It's Steph, Pyro, John TJ, Mr. Joanna Dark, Grey Monad, Timmy, Palpatine, all you guys. And
Come
look, there's a
on.
few new names. Bobby Hawk, ZFG Gaming. So yeah, thank you to you guys. Thank you to everyone for showing up and supporting us. Please hit that like, subscribe button and let your friends know that we are live now.
That's right. We are live. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, share it out amongst your buddies. And yeah, guys in the chat, welcome back. You guys are amazing and you keep the show going, so appreciate it. Umbra, you wanted to say
Yeah,
one
welcome
last thing.
everybody. Yeah, Mr. Joanna Dark's question was the biggest feedback was that it was called the Xbox Bethesda Showcase and they showed more third party. Should there be a third party and indie showcase in addition to the main shows? I think you all kind of spoke on it a minute ago about having smaller shows throughout the year. I think we can all agree there. They should maybe have another show or two
I
to kind
didn't.
of
I
spread things
didn't.
out.
No, I didn't
Yeah,
agree.
don't you think that
Most
the Sony
most
state of
agree.
plays are a little bit underwhelming for the
I
most
hate
part,
them. I hate
being
them.
spread out so much?
Sony's are, but I don't know if Nintendo's necessarily are to people. But I think it's just a matter of the platform because people just tend to love Nintendo. It seems like whatever they offer them to me, but I think they want to probably try to mimic Nintendo more than what they would mimic Sony on that.
Yeah, given the ascendance of what the Game Awards have become, there's two generally huge shows that come out, at both ends of the year. So one mid-year, one end of year. I just think that it needs to be done, like I was saying before, and like Asa was saying, in a different way, especially after the Activision deal goes through. I just don't know how you're going to be able to fit all those games in the one showcase if you are going to add the indies. And I think you're right, Umber, as well. Xbox are damned if they do, if they're damned if they don't. A few years back, they put only AAA games in the show, and then everyone called out, well, where are the indie games? And now they put indie games in there, and people like, why are you wasting time on indie games? And then they got called out for putting games that were too far out, say 3 to 4 years out. So they condensed it and only did a show that are for games that are coming out in the next 12 months, and they get called out for that. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's very difficult to make everybody like what they put out there.
Yeah, Pete.
that's
Look,
why
I
overall
don't think
they've done a
anyone
good
asked.
job.
I don't think anyone asked for the indie games last showcase at all. I think that last showcase was humongous, super successful. I don't think there was many complaints about it from the Xbox side at all. I think that was a banger. The only complaint was more gameplay and when's it coming out? Like, give us a date.
But then,
give us some.
Then Mr. Joanna Dark's favourite game, and one of my favourite games of the show, wouldn't have been there in the case of Benedict Fox. And then I think the year before that, we had replaced both standout games. No doubt
Those
they're
one of my
indie
favorites as
games,
well,
but
by the
they
way.
are standout games. So I think they do need to be in the showcase.
What's it called? The hairy avocado of Benedict Fox's big toe. Why is that title so long? People are not going to remember that. But yeah, it looked like an absolutely amazing game. That's one of my standouts of the show. And I'll have it up on screen in a minute. Look, those games are perfectly fine to slip in. They're absolutely fine. But you can tell which games are likely to hit with a broader audience because they love that broader audience. You can tell which games are going to hit with a broader audience and which ones aren't going to hit with a broader audience. And they do have other shows earlier in the year. They've got ID at Xbox, and that is the place for those indies. They already had an ID at Xbox this year, and that's the place for those indies. It's the place for
So just to point out that what Hargeet pointed out, because Hargeet actually went to the showcase out there with other people like Colt and such. So he says to the point that Umbra brought up about the Japanese content that Kojima announced was pretty well received at the showcase. So was Persona. So,
okay.
so that's what we're saying. Like some of these things hit bigger for us than for people rather than we would recognize because it doesn't matter as much to us.
Yeah, see, when I asked a couple of people that went to the Melbourne event, and when Persona was shown, I think like one person clapped.
Yeah, look,
They
yeah.
wouldn't happy to be
One of those
Astro
numbers. Oh
Gaming
boy,
and
please
Focus
clap.
Gaming, would they?
Like what?
I
Jed
would-
Bush,
look,
please clap.
If I was there, I probably would have just clapped out of sympathy.
It was Major Nelson, wasn't it? The one person clapping was Major Nelson in his little jumper.
Major Nelson.
Look, they did have some. Look, I'm not saying they didn't have bad indies there. I mean, this game looks absolutely amazing. Immediately, I think while we were streaming, I was like, "Oh man, this has given me Ori vibes." And it's been a long time since we've had a nice indie side scroller that looks beautiful. And I think we should see more because Ori's what got me back into side scrollers because I think personally, I'd been like, nah, I'd rather play big AAAs. But after playing Ori, I was like, man, there's definitely some really good indies out there and I'll give them a chance. Plus the advent of Game Pass started bringing me back to these games. And what I'm saying is they didn't curate their games properly. Like, I don't know who the hell is over there making these decisions. Like, yeah, that's a good one, Chuck and Pentiment. And we're like, everyone's going to love that. No, man. No, like there'll be a select few. And look, I have spoken, I'm not saying it's a bad game. And there will be a select few that will love that kind of a thing, but it's not the broad audience. And when you're doing a showcase like this, it needs to appeal to the broader audience ASAP.
I agree with
I was
that
just
too.
going to ask though, if you were Microsoft though and you were doing it, where would you show Pentiment?
I would stick Pentiment in the second showcase or back in ID at Xbox. Where would you stick it?
I think you put Obsidian front and center.
Right up your ass.
That's why you bought
You
him.
set that up. I'm sorry. I had to say it. It was you set it up too nicely.
I was trying really hard not to say it, but you did.
Yeah, you're on our podcast now, mate. You just go crazy, bro.
There you go.
They do not represent me.
Yes, we do.
We all represent Doom Cutie.
We definitely do. Okay, but where would you shuffle these games? I mean, there was a niche game in there for me that I don't think should have been in there. It was TTS, and I like a world-building TTS, sort of like a Civilization. I can't think of the name. It
was Ara, human something, something like that. But it was Ara. Yep.
I mean,
that's what I wanted to mention as well, Risket. There was a few games that were strictly coming to PC. Now, I've had this conversation with a few people, and I'd love if chat could get back to me. Is League of Legends actually coming to console Game Pass?
Yes.
Or because I've gone over this again, and they have since said that there's yes answers and there's no answers. And also Ara, another one that is strictly PC Game Pass. They're the ones that I would have maybe moved to another showcase because I think when you're watching E3, you've got it in your head that it's going to be a console show. But I know Xbox is trying to merge everything. I understand that. But I don't think that they need to be there because they are specific.
I agree.
For PC.
What's up, Chaos Auntie, by the way? But yeah, I think that, like you said, Aura should have been gone. That As Dusk Falls should have been in the second showcase. That did not need to be there. To that part of that was
it was
lull
in the second showcase.
As Dusk Falls was in the first one.
It was in both.
Yeah.
It was in both. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. They shouldn't have put it in the first at all. So that should have been removed. Anything that slowed down the pacing is
So we're
what
in
should have been
agreement. They
removed.
should have cleared more space for Fallout 76. Yeah.
Yeah, that should have
Oh,
been. That's another one that should have been removed.
Absolutely.
Fallout 76 should have been gone too. Any of those really. I think the League of Legends one was worthy of being there. Because even Hargeet pointed that out. Like, yeah, it didn't land for anybody there, but it absolutely is a big deal. But I
Big
think
deal.
though, by the way, that's only PC and mobile. I don't think that's Xbox as far as that deal goes.
yeah, that's what I heard as well. And I get it. They're me and Hargeet were having this conversation yesterday that a lot of these things are baby steps. So the introduction of League of Legends, Persona, the getting Team Ninja back after what happened with Neo, all these the Kojima announcement, all these things that typically aren't for things that I would be personally interested in are massive steps. Although baby steps, they are massive steps for the Japanese market, and for that demographic that's out there that will never buy an Xbox.
Well, look, Pete, I just want to jump back to something that you were saying before we move past it. Your feeling is that they shouldn't have PC games there. Now, look, I'm not a PC player. I don't have, I've got a Mac, and that's not really what you call a PC, right? Won't run many games. But to me, that's a smart move. That's something that Microsoft has been doing, has been shifting towards, and something that I think we can expect in the future. And I don't think it's a bad thing. But we do have 2 PC players on the panel right now. And look, I would like to see them put more in, just be a little bit more clear about where these games are going to, because sometimes you don't know, well, hey, is that going to console? Is it going to PC? I think they just need a little bit more clarity in their showcase to let people know what they can expect and where. Asa, do you think they should be removing that PC portion from their showcases and then sticking in a little bit? I mean, at the moment, it already slowed down through the middle. So I think if they remove something at this stage, it would be an even slower showcase. But what do you think, Asa? You want to see PC stuff at their showcases?
Yes and no. The difficulty for me, it would fit better in its own showcase to separate out the PC only things. But same with Pentiment and everything else that you say they should take out of this show. This show is the show that gets all of the eyes on it. So for every game that they take out, if they take a Pentiment out of this show and then Pentiment flops because not enough people know about it, then everyone will turn around and say, of course it flopped. You didn't put it at all. Why wasn't it at your main show? Like, did you not want it to succeed?
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one, but you could tell. I mean, I watched the show with some console players, and they started going on about League of Legends and all the Riot stuff, and it killed the mood for them a lot. So yeah, both ways. I don't know. Difficult to answer.
Yeah, because
It is a bit difficult. I think maybe that's how they plot it out too, though. Maybe if they actually plot those trailers out in between like big reveals, maybe that would be better. It'd be more palatable, because the way they presented it, I think it came after like that lull part that was going on already. So it was like, it just felt like it dragged a bit, because
I know.
it was
I
like
have.
world premiere, and then it was like, oh, this little game, okay. It didn't really hit.
You know, when I look back at the showcase, I remember it in the order that was exciting for me. And so I think when we talk about order of a show and where that actually hits, I think people get too caught up in what the actual order is rather than what our brain remembers. And I think there are 2 kinds of people out there. There are the kinds of people who remember it for what they liked, and then people will take it at 100% face value. And yeah, the order of the show will affect their mood. So if they don't like Starfield, they would have ended the show and they wouldn't have liked it. You know what I mean?
So a couple of people are pointing out in the chat that all the Riot games there, most of them are only going to PC and mobile. And see, this is where it does get confusing. And that's one of the things I don't like, that it was confusing, that I thought that they were coming to console. And look, it's great. It's fantastic for PC Game Pass. But I do think that they need to be separated so it doesn't become so confusing. Another thing that was confusing, Overwatch 2, they originally had it listed as coming to Game Pass day 1. That has since been corrected as not coming to Overwatch 2. It's not coming to Game Pass day 1. A couple of little minor things like that I took issue with.
Well,
are you saying they said that in the showcase? I don't think they said that in the showcase.
Not in the showcase, but when you went to the Xbox shop or the Xbox website afterwards, it did say straight under it, coming day 1 on Game Pass. and
Ah,
then it was then corrected.
I
And
see.
look, I have been like focusing on the negative. I think we should transition and then focus
Before we do
on what we thought
transition,
was
Pete, you've brought up a very, very good point, and so I'm going to follow on with your point. There were a couple of things that people could consider disingenuous, or somehow they got things incorrect. One of them was one of the standouts from the show, which is a positive. It's absolutely amazing looking game, but their wording was a little bit not on point, I think the word for it would be. And I'm talking about Forza Motorsport. Now, when they showed this game, it specifically said showing on the Xbox Series X, but it was not showing on the Xbox Series X. This was showing on PC at Xbox Series X specs. But how do you get that wrong? How do you mess that up as a massive publisher, a console producer, and a company that's not like inexperienced at putting together these shows? How do you mess that up? Like, how do you tell people, hey, this is running on an Xbox Series? Oh shit! After the show, how bad? How bad it's actually running on a PC, and things like that, where it's the lack of clarity about ray tracing, which they've since come out and let everyone know that hey, this game does have full in-game ray tracing, but they know what this community is like, and we've been lied to before, right? We got well, you consider it being lied to this time about where the game was played or shown. You know, when they said ray tracing on track, that kind of wording doesn't give clarity to the community, and we want clarity. We want to know what this game's going to be, what it's going to have, what, when, where, and why, and what it's been shown on. And look, I've talked about this at length in the community this week because it's one of the things that it was a massive letdown. And Xbox is like, they heard us talking about, we want to have games, you know, see gameplay, we want to see the games that are coming soon, blah 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 blah. But we've also said we don't want to see the games playing on a PC. We want to see them playing on the Xbox. And if it's not playing on the Xbox, we want to know it's not playing on the Xbox. We want to know it's being run on PC. Asa, did you pick this up after the show? What were your thoughts on
I
it?
didn't pick it up in the show as being announced on Series X gameplay. I've not watched it back, so you could be right. It might have been. I know that they told some various publications that it was on the Series X, and then they had to go back and amend what they said there. So you're not wrong. I'm less fussed about where they show it. They've said that they're promising to deliver this in the series version, right? And same with the ray tracing on track scenario. I think when you have the company and you're trying to hold them to account for what they say, so long as in the end they fall on the right side of what they've said, so it's the better version of what you might expect they were trying to say, then it's all right. So in this case, if they deliver Forza Motorsport and it looks like this on the Series X, which I believe that it will, they've not really done any harm as far as I'm concerned. If they say ray tracing is available on track, and then it turns out that means it's not in gameplay, then I'll feel ripped off. I feel like they tried to deceive me with that. But if they say ray tracing is available on track and it's a little bit vague, but it turns out they did mean gameplay, like it lands on the favorable side of the vagueness, I'm happy enough. And that's how it's turned out for this one. The ray tracing is in game, so
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pleased.
Sorry, you go.
No, go.
Love how everyone in chat called me out that Overwatch 2 is free to play, so it didn't
Yeah.
matter. Thank you to Hagi, Kaya Sante, Steph. I'll take the L.
That's the knees on the table. Yeah, look, absolutely. I think, but I just, with their wording, it made everything. I mean, that's a good business move, I think, though, as well. If I think about it, like as a business, you make your wording a little bit difficult to sit one way or sit the other way, and then people are going to talk about it. So they're going to talk about your game. But I mean, Forza is one of those games that people are going to talk about anyway. Umbra, did you find this a little bit disingenuous with the PC showing and letting people and saying it was on the Series X initially? And what were your thoughts on their wording for ray tracing?
As far as the showcasing for the Forza you're talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, at first I was even questioning it. As I had said it, I believe during the showcase, I said I was a little weary the way he worded it. It seemed like he was talking about the Forza Vista situation, kind of like GT does with the replays and such. So I was wondering if they were trying to muddle things up with that. But to their credit, he came out immediately the director came out immediately on the next day, or Tuesday rather, and came and said that no, they're not trying to mislead us. They're being he was very specific. He didn't mince words. He was clear cut and said no, it's in game when you're playing, blah blah blah. So it's ray tracing on when you're racing. So I thought at
Yeah.
first the way it was worded, it confused us, and it's because we just have this kind of, I guess, pessimistic view of sometimes of how they say things, because they will try to mislead you. We've seen it happen before.
Yeah, we've been burnt in the past. Exactly.
Absolutely. So
That's why they
init-
have to be
initially I
very
thought it.
wary with their words.
That's true too. So initially I thought it, but after he came out and cleared it up, I was good. I was good to go. So, and I know some people tried to run with it too on Twitter and such, and try to you don't have ray tracing, blah blah blah, console warming nonsense. So I think that made it more like
Of a thing.
tenuous for people. Yeah,
Which I didn't get involved in at all. I did not get involved in any of that console warring stuff.
I get it. I think what Forza was trying to say.
I didn't want to
is-
throw you
so
under the bus.
basically-
I was just got quiet, like I'm not gonna say anything.
so basically everything in the background, the stadiums, the trees, all that won't have ray tracing, but anything on track will. So the cars, the mirrors, all that kind of stuff. So I guess that they weren't trying to be deceptive, but they wanted to be careful with their words. I like how they clarified it. I don't really have a problem with it. Fact of the matter is, Forza Motorsport looked amazing.
Yes,
Absolutely amazing, regardless of whether it was captured on Series X or on PC. I just don't think it really matters. That game is going to be a showcase. The hate that it's getting on Twitter is just console war nonsense. It's because they know that this franchise is absolutely destroying the Gran Turismo.
I know.
Oh no! Look, it
They're
hasn't.
so
now.
mad.
It hasn't been. It honestly hasn't been hate after they came out and clarified ray tracing. Before that, it was all about. There was a lot of conversations about how they've, they're going to let you down. Blah 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 blah. As soon as that's come out, I've noticed everyone's been completely quiet about it. And if you're the kind of person, I'm not the kind of person, but if you are the kind of person that pulls receipts on people and brings it up, those people aren't responding. Well, I imagine that they're not responding, because I wouldn't do that. Pete, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I also going to say, in terms of Forza Motorsport, I don't think that the trees and the foliage in the background look as good as they do in Horizon. If anything, that just points to the fact that how great Playground Games is, and it makes me want to play Fable even more. I mean, but all the car assets, all that kind of stuff, that's all done by Turn 10. Not to mention the fact that this is a sim racer, so a lot of that graphical power that goes into the open world in Forza Horizon goes into how the rubber hits the road, literally in Forza Motorsport. So depending on whatever suspension or tire or the tire pressure that you use, because it is a sim racer, so it's understandably not as good, but they're not the things that you're going to be focusing on when you're on track going 300 kilometers an hour trying to overtake somebody. This is a sim racer, not an arcade racer, and for what it is, looks amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Doom Cutie, I know you're a massive Forza fan. Are you a sim racer fan? Has sim racers been your thing? Because motorsport is a very different kettle of fish to Forza Horizon. But are you excited for Forza Motorsport?
No, not at all. Yes, of course I am. And I'll just touch on something that Pete said just before. He was like, a lot of the effort in these sim racing games, they put the effort into the car, like the tire pressure, the feeling of the tire compound, things like that, the physics of the car. But the fact that they're able to spend more time, because I think, people are streaming these games. They're taking videos from these games. Not a new thing, but the fact of the matter is that stuff does matter. The trees do matter. The environment does matter. So yeah, I think, like I said, it's obviously going to be the best motorsport that we've seen. And I honestly, I'm very excited for it to come out.
Were you at all concerned about their wording initially. What did you think about them showing on PC instead of showing on the Series X? I mean, I know you have a PC, but I don't know how high-end your PC is, but you need to have a top-of-the-line PC to run this at its full settings. And even maybe top-of-the-line PCs are going to struggle with some of these settings, I'm betting. So what did you think about that?
Yeah, look, I didn't even really think about it when I watched it in the watch party. I didn't think about whether it was gameplay from a PC or an Xbox. But and then obviously you brought it to my attention, and other people did as well. Like, you know, lovely PlayStation fans out there, you know, trying to put hate wherever they can. But I mean, yeah, look, they could have been a lot more clearer. These guys are professionals, and I think it was a little bit of a slip up. The fact that they, you know, they could have just added on a PC or on a gaming PC, like in that little writing down the bottom of the gameplay. And you know, potentially, you know, what is it? What's that saying? It's like it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So potentially this is one of those situations where they're like, oh, we'll be a bit vague about it and then apologize for it later. But honestly, it really doesn't bother me. And they always make amazing games. And Pete, I agree. It's actually really exciting. Once I'll be interested to see what the character models look like. Because Forza gets a lot of hate for the way that their characters look. So hopefully we can see a little bit of a step into the direction that we might see with Fable.
Absolutely, yeah. Fable's look, again, one of those games that wasn't shown, but we'll get into what wasn't shown a little bit later. I did have a question that I wanted to address real quickly. If you do type a question and we're on a topic, I will get back to you. So don't worry. And it was Rebellious 00 question I have. Have you guys heard anything about the Age of Empires 4 console port? It wasn't on the picture with all the games coming in the next 12 months. So late 2023 at best. Yeah, look, I was hoping, I was predicting actually that we would see Age of Empires 4 there because RTSs are something that I love to play. And unfortunately, we didn't see it. So look, I'd agree with that. I'd say it'd be the back end of 2023. I don't think it'd be 2024. It just probably takes a while to, obviously you got a port, but you've also got to come up with a control scheme that works with the controller. And, you know, they can't just half-ass that because that would put a bit of a black mark up against the game's name. So, yeah, absolutely, I would say 2023 would be something that I would expect. Let's step into the positive realm of what was exciting. Now, guys, I'll just go through and get your standouts of the game, and then possibly we'll talk about those standouts as we go through. Asa, was there anything or a few games that stood out for you that you just got super hyped for? As hyped as Asa can get. I don't think I've ever seen you like get hyped on a show or anywhere, really. I don't know.
Oh, I keep it bottled, but the feelings are there. I have like deep emotions. High on Life was the one that surprised me the most because I'd never heard of it going into that show. Never heard of it. Never knew that Squanch Games were making pancake games now. And it looked, obviously they've got their like Rick and Morty sense of humor that was very prevalent, and I know that studio and I expect that from them. But it also looked like a really posh game. It had a lot of Insomniac about it in the way that the guns are working. So a lot of like Ratchet and Clank, Sunset Overdrive kind of gameplay. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's this year. It's pretty soon. It's on Game Pass. Nice bit of excitement there. The other one I'm tentatively excited about is Diablo. And I say tentatively because Blizzard put a lot of feet wrong a lot of the time in the way that they monetize things. And they can ruin everything by monetizing it wrong. I'm very sensitive to bad practice in monetization. But besides that, it looks so good. It looks so good.
So did you hear about the fact that High on Life and The Quarry, which just released, I think, like last week or whatever, both of those were supposed to be specific or exclusive to Stadia before that fell out.
Oh, right.
I had not heard that.
No.
Yeah.
Never heard that. Good old Stadia. I'm one of the few people in the world that has a Stadia Pro subscription. Can I still get it for free on there? I'm not going to play it there even if I can.
You've still got it, Asa. You haven't cancelled it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm playing chicken with Google. Like, who's going to cancel this first, me or you? I'm expecting them to cancel it before long.
Awesome. Doom Cutie. That was some pretty good standouts. Diablo 4 was also one of mine.
Before we go to Doomy, I just wanted to say that there was rumor that Age of Empires is getting tested in January 2022 for consoles, and those same sources said there will be a reveal by the end of the year and a date coming. So whoever asked that question, I forget the name. Sorry.
Rebellious 00. No, you're all good, man. You're all good. He asked for information and you got it, man. So appreciate that. Pete Doom Cutie, what stood out for you at the show?
She'll be right back, mate.
Well,
so let's go to
Nope.
for me, it was.
That's not her. I should have thought that was her. Oh, well, guys, sorry, guys. I've got like 3, 4, 5 screens running at the moment. So, Pete, let's find out what you stood out for you at the show. I imagine there was actually a few. I've actually got a chance to talk to you, man, this week about the showcase, which is weird because we normally get a chance to sit down and like just while we're smashing away on games, like have a chat about things. But I missed you this week, man. You know.
Yeah, I've been on early, mate. I don't know you're back to work, so congratulations to you, mate. And yeah, but look, there was a few. So straight away, right off the bat, Redfall gameplay looked amazing, and it was a great way to start the show. I love Dishonored, Arcane, fantastic. Prey took me a little bit of time to get into, but eventually I got around to it and really, really loved it. And I think Arcane do things differently to how everyone else does them, and that's my type of game. I mean, I cannot wait to get into that gameplay co-op with you guys on community game night. Yep, so absolutely fantastic. Then, straight away again, Hollow Knight, Silksong, just looked amazing. And coming to Game Pass, how good is that?
Yes, sir.
And then obviously Starfield, which was my game of the show. I think that I was really worried about how the gunplay was going to feel because I think that it didn't feel great in Forza, but from everything I saw, looked amazing. And then just the scope of that world and just being able to go into it at your own pace, going to create your character. That character creator looked incredibly in depth. The character models looked far and away, so much better than what they did in
Previous
Fallout 4.
games. You know what's crazy,
I don't think-
Jedi? Somebody gave a screenshot comparison to that in Fallout 4, and it was like almost night and day.
Yeah. They've come a long way, and it shows how much work that they've actually done on the creation engine overhaul. So just, amazing. The base building stuff, all that kind of stuff doesn't interest me. But just getting to, sink my teeth into that world, a brand new sci-fi, universe to explore at my own leisure, amazing. Diablo 4, wow, did that look dark and menacing and amazing. Cannot wait to get into that. And
when I saw them rolling the blood like a tidal wave, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I might have to get into this.
Diablo 4 looked
after
amazing. That was massive for me. And I think I stepped out during the showcase because, as I've said, I've got a very sick baby and I missed a lot of it. But when I went back, I got a raw reaction that was off camera. And you should have, I'm stoked for this game. I played a little bit of Diablo 3, loved Diablo 2 back in the day. I was like massive into Diablo 2, but this just looks next level. Sorry, Pete, I just had to jump in and say that.
I bought part 2, by the way.
You guys are all good.
The other day. Just because of part 4, I bought part 2 just the other day, speaking of which.
I was going to do the same thing, Umbra. Yeah, I was going to do the exact same thing, mate. Yeah, I ran through 3 as a Demon Hunter, and when they showed the classes, I was disappointed that the Demon Hunter wasn't there until I realized that the Rogue is basically the Demon Hunter with a different name. So I'll be running the Rogue. And then another thing that I don't think Blizzard have made clear is the fact that all classes can be played as both genders, so you're not limited. Although most of them have been shown as females, you can actually play them as males, so that's important to me as well. I generally like playing as male characters. And another thing, by the time Diablo releases, it'll be free on Game Pass because the deal would have gone through. And then a standout and that I didn't expect, Flintlock. I loved the look of that game. I loved everything about it. The combat looked amazing. The fact that you can have a pet, the world, the character design. Yeah, incredibly excited for that game. I know I've named a few, and I could probably name a few more. Plague's Tale, Requiem, Arc 2. Yep.
Redfall
So
surprised us, many of us, right? And like Ray
yeah.
Monad pointed out, did you hear about the progression system situation with co-op?
Yes, I did, and I don't mind the way they've done it. And they did say that they, went into it quite in depth, and decided that it's basically going to be back for blood. So if they're playing off your account, they'll still get to keep whatever weapon upgrades, pick up whatever weapons that they've picked up. They'll all stay, but your actual level, your chapter progression won't. So if you played the game entirely on, your mate's account, you'll have to start again when you go back to your account. And, that's fine. I'm fine with that. You just have two different games, one that you play single player and then one with you play with your friends. And
That's
the
not that
last
bad
game
to
I'll
me.
mention,
I
the
agree
last
with
game
you.
I'll mention is the last case of Benedict Fox. I'm similar to Risk It. I mean, I didn't really play that many side scrollers, and then Ori just got me back into them. Ori hit me in the feels.
Yeah,
That
you over
game
there
was
tearing up and
amazing, and
everything, huh?
and it reminded me of when I was a kid, and I'd go play Super Metroid. Loved that game, so
Yeah,
brought back all
that
those
game was
memories. And
that game was super. Sorry, I just had to make
yeah,
that dad
yeah.
joke. My bad.
That was in my top 4. That was in my top 4 of the showcase. Was the last case of Benedict Fox.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that's enough for me. I think I've pretty much named the whole showcase. So you guys take over.
I think I would just go to. I know it's part of. I think it's part of our topics is that we would have to talk about what they didn't show,
Yeah, it
because
is.
what they
It is.
showed, yeah, because we can kind of agree overall the great stuff they showed. Redfall looked good. Starfield looked mostly great. Obviously some technical issues. Obviously the frames per second wasn't great, but overall it sold it, and it was the best thing of the show. Diablo 4, et cetera, et cetera. But we have to, and the reason why I think a lot of contention about the score is because we didn't get things we wanted to see. Like for instance, Avowed or
Fable,
overview of
Avowed,
Fable,
Perfect Dark,
Hellblade 2,
State of Decay, what State of
State of
Decay?
Decay 3,
Yeah, State of
right?
Decay
Things
3,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, or Perfect Dark, things like that. So, what would you say about that, Risk? I think you're probably gonna lead
Can I
us
just
to
add
something.
one more game because I forgot and I know I've named a few.
No.
Wolong, Fallen
Well, I said no.
Destiny.
All right, moving
Yeah,
on.
just because it's by Team Ninja, and I was incredibly disappointed that we didn't get Neo. I was one of the people that signed the petition to bring Neo over to Xbox. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but I was speaking to Timmy yesterday, and he said that the combat, this is a spiritual successor to Neo. A1 Game Pass, cannot wait for that game. I mean, I remember playing Ninja Gaiden back in the day. That game kicked my ass. It's what got me into the Dark Souls type of game. I think they give you a feeling that no other game gives you that sense of accomplishment after you beat a boss that's been kicking your ass for days. Yeah, absolutely love it.
Yeah, look, before we do move on to the next topic and what Umra asked about, just say if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We go live every Friday, 8 p.m. EST in the US and 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time in Australia, obviously. And if you are in the UK, we are a little bit late. It is 1 a.m. BT, so we apologize, Asa, that it's so late for you, man. And we appreciate you guys coming along. We also appreciate everyone in the chat. You guys are absolutely amazing. You guys that are here, please hit that like button, share it out, let everyone know that we're here. Yes, what wasn't there is what...
Yes, I did name the whole show, Doovie. And Detective Seeds, well done on your coverage of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, mate. I watched your live chat. There was about 5,000 people watching, so congratulations to you, mate. That was really, really well done.
Nice work on that. What wasn't there was I think the standout of the show. It's what a lot of people and myself, it's hard not to, rated the show on. Because we know what's coming. We don't know when it's coming. But what you have to rate the show on all of its merits, and one of its demerits has got to be what wasn't shown, what wasn't talked about. And that could have sped up the middle of the show. I like the idea of, hey, this is what's coming in the next 12 months. As Asa pointed out, that's a good thing. And I think when we hit the next show, they will already be steamrolling into like a steady flow of AAA games that people want to play, want to hear about, want to see, that do stand out. But at the moment, they're not quite there. So they might have gone a little bit too early with the 12 months gameplay thing. A lot of games weren't there, as you guys pointed out. Avowed, Hellblade, Fable, Perfect Dark. Where we've seen gameplay for Hellblade, where is that? What's going on with that? What about a small developer's diary, a developer's talk?
That's shown at the Game Awards, so that's where they've been showing it. So I suspect that's where we'll see it again. I don't know if they've got a contractual agreement with whatever that guy's name is, Keeley. But that seems to be where they like to show that game. But I think you're right, Risket. It should have been seen, mate.
Absolutely, it definitely should have been seen. And at least not seen, but talked about it. You can bring developers out and put a poster up on screen of the game. And I think it negatively affected the showcase. But listen, I'll add this before I move to the panel. They didn't have a choice last year. They were releasing hardware, or they had just released hardware, and they needed to give people a reason to buy that hardware. And so they had to come out swinging with whatever they had coming. And some of these games we know are coming in 2025. Like Fable is likely to hit early 2025, in my personal opinion, just from everything we've been hearing and its development time, and the fact that Playground hasn't made an open world RPG before. So that's understandable. And look, they kind of cut their own throat for the next showcase, but what they could have done is mitigated that by just giving us a little bit of an update on these games. What's going on with them? Where are they? They know that we're expecting to see them. They do listen to the community. They listen to podcasts, and they must have been seeing people talk about, hey, we're probably going to see Hellblade. Hey, we're probably going to see Avowed. We'd like to see Fable. We'd like to see Perfect Dark. Those games are unreasonable. But they could have done a lot more to mitigate the negative responses that they have had. And I think that was a bit of a misstep. And Microsoft has a habit of really misstepping with these things. And last year we thought that had gone away. Like 2021, everyone was like, boom, hey, they've got it. They understand what we want. They understand the direction that we want to see. Beautiful. Let's go in that direction. Rock and roll. The next show is going to be great. Everyone got hyped. And that's the thing. You've overhyped them for the last show. Everyone was overhyped for this show. I think if you guys are level-headed, I still haven't rated the show, and the reason is because I go up and down. If you're level-headed like Umbra and you're like, yep, cool, I can understand the reasons why, what games, and then this is what I like, so I'll give it an 8. No, you guys obviously aren't basing it on what wasn't there, but I have to. So to me, at the end of the day, because of that misstep, I've got to give it a 7, maybe even a 6.5, but I don't like doing points because, hey man, where were these games, Asa?
Up your ass.
There it is. There it is.
I really want to see Avowed and plenty of other things that they've got working. And it's fair to be disappointed that the studios that they came on stage and announced that they'd acquired in 2017 have done so little. But it is what it is. It was 12 months. They could have set that expectation earlier. They could have told people a couple of weeks beforehand that they were planning to do this 12-month thing, and then people might have speculated a little less on some of the things that they were expecting to see there. But I don't know. If you know me, I don't really get too involved in the speculation anyway. So I was all good and calm.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm pretty calm
Well,
about this.
Yeah,
If I see it, I see it. If I don't, I don't.
In saying that, but I say you're right, because a lot of people predicted that we would see Avowed. Even there were some predictions for Fable, Perfect Dark, and so when you're putting that out there a week before the show, and then the show comes around and those games aren't shown, you are inclined to be disappointed, which is a shame.
The one thing that it shouldn't need to be said because it's kind of obvious, but what they actually deliver is way more important than what they show. So we as like a really core community get really fixated on these shows and the marketing for them, and we talk day after day about what they're showing and what they're bringing, but none of that matters compared to what they actually deliver. They could do no shows at all, and if they bring game after game after game that are fun to play, that's far more important.
It goes back to my prior point as well, Asa, where we think where the novelty, well, it's not a novelty, but how great Game Pass has that, that luster has worn a little bit because we're used to it now. And we are used to getting these games day and date. But that doesn't change the fact that we don't have to pay for a lot of these games. And the casuals out there, that still means a lot. I don't know why Microsoft have done it. The 2021, I was watching the 2021 showcase because I wanted to compare it to the 2022 one. And Microsoft have deleted it, or at least made it private from their official Xbox channel. I don't know why, but the last time I saw it, it was on 2.1 million views. And we all know how great that showcase was. This year's showcase is already up to 3.9 million, so almost double. So Microsoft are heading in the right direction. Numbers don't lie. They are on fire. People are incredibly interested to see what they're showing. All these games are coming out in the next 12 months. Most of them are coming out on Game Pass. But now that Doomy's back, what did you think of the showcase? What were your standouts?
What were my standouts?
Yep.
Well, definitely Forza Motorsport 8. Also, I'm actually interested in the Minecraft RPG. I know it's not for everyone, but it definitely captured my imagination when I saw it. Something that I will definitely be playing. Obviously,
Tell me why.
Starfield.
Like, a
Why?
lot of people like just dismiss Minecraft. I'm curious, what about that trailer caught your interest?
Well, it's more about, so I'm actually a Minecraft educator. I'm a trained Minecraft educator because I'm a teacher. And I've done a lot of work with Minecraft in the classroom, and for me, it really does pull at my heartstrings. Just sort of seeing a story, like a really in-depth story in the Minecraft world. My inner child was extremely happy, and I love the thought of Minecraft being played in that kind of world. So in that space.
Yeah, watching Doomy's live reaction to Minecraft, she was grinning from ear to ear. That was definitely one of the standouts for you, wasn't it, mate? Yeah, and it was incredibly exciting to see that passion. You know, it was, and that's why we had a live showcase.
Yeah.
Unsold passion.
For Minecraft, I know.
That's
so
cool.
Forza,
I was a little
Minecraft,
excited.
what
I was a little
else?
excited for Legends too, though. Like I never really played in Minecraft like that, but I was a little excited for it. Maybe we got to run as a team or something, cutie.
Yeah, sounds
Well,
good.
Minecraft Dungeons is great, Umbra. If you haven't played it, it's an incredibly fun game. Yeah.
I played a
Mhm.
bit of it. I enjoyed it a little
Sorry
bit.
to talk over you, Doomy. What else? So Forza, Minecraft. I basically named the whole showcase, so yeah, feel free.
Look, I before the showcase, I was extremely excited about Starfield as well. I think the reason why I was so enchanted by Minecraft Legends is because I wasn't expecting it. It wasn't on my radar. Obviously, because the big names were mostly talked about. Yeah. So his Starfield, it's a big game. It's going to be a big game. People are going to have no life playing this game.
Well,
So
they will
I'm
have a life. It just won't be touching grass. It'll be in
no
the
no
Starfield
no
universe.
touching grass for them. But that's okay. Put grass on your base. Put it on your ship.
Nice. My organic ship.
Yes.
I'm gonna call it the pony.
Ride it every day.
Right.
I wonder if you can name them. I mean, surely you must be able to name them. That would be cool. I am interested to see what the communications between like other players looks like. What is going to facilitate that? I don't know if you guys have seen anything with that.
You saying like for the co-op situation of
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it's just specifically single player though for Starfield, right?
Yeah,
So
So the mod
somebody
to
else
get their hands on it,
strictly
yeah.
single player. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as
Somebody else
with
asked
all
that too.
Bethesda games. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's not
okay.
unusual.
Okay.
They do have Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online if you do want to play your games together. But Starfield
That is
is back
true.
to what Bethesda do,
What a
when they're
marketing
at their
response. Who do
best.
you work for?
Yeah, you could
Oh,
be.
I'm afraid it doesn't deliver this for you, but we can offer you this game or this game.
he gets 10 cents every time he says that.
Look, I'll bring it back to what wasn't there, guys, for the showcase, because I think that does affect a lot of people's opinion of the show. Umbra, were you a little bit annoyed? I mean, it was yourself he was talking about. What wasn't there? Did any of the games missing? Do you think that the show would have been better served if they had have, brought some of those games to the forefront in the middle and just and left the 12 months thing behind for this show and just said, hey, look, these games are here. Here's where they're at. Here's a little snippet. Here's a dev diary. Here's some combat from Hellblade. Do you think it would have been better served as a show as a whole if they had have showed something from these games that were missing?
I think it would have registered heavier with those who are looking for, for AAA games like that. It obviously would have hit with us. If they would have shown some more Hellblade, I've been all for that. If they would have shown Avowed, which we all wanted and was rumored to be so far in development, that would have hit well. So yes, things like that. Obviously, I call for Fable. I said it more than one time on the podcast and everything else, and that's just confirmed that it's nowhere near, I guess, any place where it could be shown, which is unfortunate. So all those things, yeah, added up, and I think, like I said, the people who gave it low scores or lower scores and middling scores are just those who wanted to see things like that didn't get it. But I think if you look at it, if you watch the show in the perspective of what they did show instead of what you wanted to see, that's why my score was an 8, because they just showed us, quality gameplay and stuff like that from beginning to end pretty much. And they had some solid announcements here and there throughout it. But just the fact that we didn't get those things, that's what most people chirped on. I've been in a few spaces after the fact, and that was it. They were like, we didn't see Avowed, we didn't see, this or that. And that definitely affected people. But I will say, Jeff Keighley and a few other people did polls. I think IGN did polls on the showcases. Keighley, for his showcase, I think scored a D, if not a C, and with thousands of votes. And his poll for Xbox's showcase was like in 100,000s, and it scored A and Bs. So most people who are like 6 or 5 and all of that for a 10 rating, those are people who are the minority. Most people actually really like this show, so it's funny. I would give it a B or 8 out of 10 overall, but again, I think it did hurt in some ways, but I think it's just because of what we wanted to see, and because we want to see that promise of what they're going to give us going forward for first party, and the fact that right now, if you look at what we're not getting first party this year, it's looking kind of bad out there. Luckily we have all these third parties deals going on, so we're not going to be dry as far as things to play. But
look, we had a conversation about that, Umbra. The
Yeah.
third parties, I think it was yesterday. Well, for me, it was yesterday. How Xbox are leveraging, leaning on, and are at a specific point in their evolution with first parties and third parties, and at the moment they are leaning on those third parties because they have to. And I can't remember who said it, or I think it was one of the boys said, look, PlayStation was at a point in 2013 where they were leaning on their third parties and leveraging those deals to bring games to their system to keep people in that ecosystem. And I think Xbox is at that time. And if you remember, you start coming into 2016. It took them a few years to start coming into 2016, and PlayStation started to bring out some bangers, and they were showing some bangers. And I think that we're in that evolution for Xbox where this is their 2013. They're leveraging these third-party deals. We're getting games to play, games that are good. So look, I will say personally that what was missing was stark and obvious. And they could have, like I said, mitigated that by showing a couple of these games. One of the games they did show, which is a little bit controversial, and I've seen some split talks about this, and I think personally this should have been in the main showcase front and center. Now, I will say this, I'll show it on screen. It also has graphic and disturbing images, so maybe you want to turn your head away, and the game that I'm talking about is Stalker. Stalker. They wanted to. The company itself wanted to show what they've been up to, what's going on in the background. Obviously, with the war, I don't want to talk too much about the war itself, but they wanted to let people know that they still are in development and the troubles and struggles that they're going through to develop the game. A lot of people didn't like this, and they thought it was Microsoft leveraging a bad situation to show, to basically get a sympathy vote. And listen, personally, I don't think so. I think that this is the company themselves, Stalker, wanting to show what they're going through to bring this game to us.
That was made very clear by Sarah Bond when she announced it. She said that this was actually, I forget their names, but the Stalker 2 developers' names said specifically that they wanted to show that they were going through. This is what they sent them. It wasn't pushed on them by Microsoft. In fact, the GMC actually wanted to show this. So forever out there is trying to push that narrative. It's disgusting, and you should be ashamed of yourselves.
I want to add though, just to say, I can see a point on maybe including this in the main show risk, but I think it was enough of a downer that they wouldn't want to put this in the main show, because it's as nice as it is that they're still surviving and doing their thing. It paints a kind of a bleak picture of these guys, these devs out there armed to the teeth and things like that. I don't know if it would fit with them showcasing future games. I don't know if it fits properly. You know what I mean? It seems out of place. So I think that
I think
the
it was
extended
perfect for the extended. Yeah,
I think it works for the extended
I
better.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look,
I'm not
incredibly powerful, but incredibly powerful, especially that gentleman that spoke. Well, there were two. There was one that was armed to the teeth with a 50 caliber, like he's actually in a war zone. Well, there was a few. Then the lady that was trying to write quests while she's living in a corridor with her dog. And then the guy that hasn't spoken to his parents since the world began. His parents live in Maripol, and if anyone knows what's happened to that city,
did you just say since the world began? You mean since the war began?
The war began.
The war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. The guy.
I'd say that dude must be like super old. He'd be like millions of years old by that point.
Sorry, the guy that whose parents live in Maripol. If anyone knows what's happened to that city, it's basically just there is no city anymore.
Yeah.
There's no city left. That's the city right there on screen. That is Maripol. Wow. It's a non-existent city now. That's the gentleman that I'm speaking of. His parents live there, and he hasn't been able to speak to them since the war began. That's incredibly powerful, incredibly moving, and just, I don't know how to respond to that. There's more important things in gaming, obviously. And yeah, thoughts and prayers to go out to everyone in Ukraine.
Asa?
I hadn't heard anyone have like a negative response to that segment of the show, so I'm obviously following the wrong Twitter console warriors or whatever. But like introducing it, you could see that the emotion was raw for Sarah Bond when she went into that segment. You could see that she was struggling because she knows those people personally.
Yes.
And it was a powerful segment, and it was an important reminder. And it probably didn't fit in the main showcase. But yeah, there's more important things for sure. And it was sad to watch. But that's real. That's what's going on right now.
Really
it was. I would say that 40K though, the Warhammer 40K would have been something that could have been switched over to the main show instead of giving it to Keeley. I don't know what they were thinking with that, but as far as this one, I just think it's somber enough where it should have stayed in extended.
Yeah,
maybe they could have been a reference at the beginning, like maybe a few minutes given to, we're not going to talk about it here, but it will be in the extended, and maybe have Sarah Bond talk a little bit about that since she started the show. But those scenes, yes, there are much more important things in the world, and I think anyone who thinks that this is Microsoft looking for sympathy can just, I don't know, maybe go take a trip to
stick it up their ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of things are getting stuck up people's asses today.
I know,
it's a little bit concerning. I don't know what's going on here. Who started this?
Knock it till you try it.
Yeah. No, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely cried.
Yeah, look, I don't cry. I've had my tear ducts removed because I'm extremely manly. But yeah, it was extremely sad, and it was powerful to see. And what's going on over there is horrific. I don't
Their
wanna-
passion for this game, like, is going to be, it's so evident.
Yeah, look, and some of the, I mean, Pete, I think you said the live showing of it, the chat was absolutely abhorrent, and some of the things that were saying that were being said. You know, there is more important things in the world than gaming, and people's lives are most definitely more important than gaming. But what I'm saying is exactly what Doomy said. We could have just seen a little bit of gameplay, and stay tuned for the 14th to see more on Stalker 2. You know, that could have been that could have been a better way to go about it. You know, just to move that show along. And you're right, Umbra. Absolutely, I think that there's other games that could have taken center stage. Games like, you know, Warhammer Dark Tide 40K is one of those games that, like, why didn't they grab that for the show? But I mean, Keeley's show again was another one that was, you know, people were a little bit disappointed in. And I'll say this, and I said this to Pong Soul the other day. I think everyone's at that point in development, and I hate using this, where COVID has hit them in that spot, and we're in that section of development where things are coming out of the struggle, but they're not quite ready yet, and they're not ready to show what they've got. And look, that's completely understandable, but it makes people's, you know, Xbox's show, it makes Keeley's show a very difficult ones to curate at this point in time. And I think we're going to see a hell of a lot of bigger, better shows next year, which kind of brings me to my next topic. But before I jump on the next topic, if you've just joined us, please hit that like button, share us out. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Let your friends know, tell your grandma, you know, she might like podcasts. Share it out. Let people know that we're here and that we go live at 8 p.m. EST, Friday US time, and 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays.
Before we move on, not everyone has got a chance to say what wasn't in the showcase for them. I know I haven't, and Doomy hasn't. I don't think Asa has, so I think we should do that, mate.
No, definitely Asa has. But Doomy did. I thought you did. It's like that time when I forgot to do your outro, man. I feel absolutely terrible.
I'm clear. Anyone listening, if you need another panel member on your podcast, my DMs are open. No, I'm kidding.
Well, coming from a person that's been on Doomsayers and Game Set Live this week, doing the rounds, mate.
She's
trying other things out.
Yeah, look, you guys, I'm being poached. Definitely Avowed. I would have liked to have seen that, but you know what? I didn't feel like anything was missing because the show was already really full. And I think even if they did take away, a couple of the indies, I don't think that would have been enough time to show what they wanted to of the games that people say were missing. So, yeah, that's probably the only one. I would have loved to have seen Fable, but I know that it's nowhere near. I don't think it's near what they want, like that gameplay. They wanted to show gameplay, and they didn't have it. So why would they put it in if they didn't have it?
Yeah, exactly that. Pete, what were your thoughts on Avowed, Hellblade, Fable, Perfect Dark, these big bad, the Compulsion game, these games that are in development, in Exiles game that seem to be missing, and there's no word on the street, no leaks, no rumors, and no showing at the showcase. What do you think? How did that affect your show?
It did affect it. I'm not going to say that it didn't because I was expecting him, and that's why the hype was so big. I would have loved to have seen Avowed. I thought that game was further along. I thought that they definitely could have showed gameplay of that. We do know that Perfect Dark and Fable are having, somewhat issues. Maybe not Fable, but definitely Perfect Dark. So I wasn't really expecting those. But I wanted to see, I think Boba was right. One big surprise would have been great. And for me, I would have loved to have seen Indiana Jones or Wolfenstein, something from Machine Games, or maybe Quake from id Software. Something that,
Quake's always going to be at QuakeCon, man. Yeah. If you get Quake, it's QuakeCon. So that's not saying it's not going to turn up. But I mean, I can understand that not being there. So,
well, they're Microsoft first party now. So although it's going to be on QuakeCon, that doesn't say that it cannot be on the Xbox Showcase because times have changed. They are now.
Well, I think it does. Sorry, mate, you go.
And now part of that Xbox umbrella, So I definitely think it could have been there. But the big one for me, and look, I would be remiss to say, if I didn't, that Halo wasn't there. Halo wasn't there in any way, shape, or form, and I don't think that the Pelican being able to be flown in Flight Simulator is Halo being there. And I was
Good
so
point.
excited to hear the Halo music when it first came
Mhm.
on. I thought we were going to see something, and then we got that. And it was a massive downer for me. A
Mhm.
massive downer for me. I mean, nothing about the Battle Royale, nothing about Forge, nothing about campaign co-op, nothing about campaign DLC, just nothing. That was
Yeah.
incredibly disappointing for me, especially when, they're putting in, DLC or, the Sea of Thieves thing, or the Pit coming to Fallout or, those type of things. So, yeah, look, I would have to say that they were a little bit hamstrung by the fact that they were only showing games that are coming out in the next 12 months. All that being said, we do know that Forge is coming out in the next 12 months, so I think that they could have shown something to do with Halo to alleviate some of the problems that we all know Halo has been having.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Halo was missing, and they did do something later in the week that there's also a bit of an issue, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Well, look, we'll move on to what I was segueing into, and it was a perfect segue, and it got interrupted, and I'm salty about that, but I'll go.
Worst segue I've ever heard. This is a disaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, look, E3. My question is, and I wanted to ask this last week, but we had a bit of a long show. E3, do we need it? With Keeley not landing, his show for the reasons that I stated before. There's not much out there at the moment for him to show, and it would have been disappointing for Keeley because this is his year. Was his year to really cement his place and maybe take E3 down. He just didn't do that. So, I think personally, we do need an E3. I've always wanted an E3. I've always wanted to go. So if they shut E3 down and I never get a chance to go, that'll be extremely disappointing for me because I think it's one of those just once in a lifetime events if you're living somewhere that other than the US. But do you guys think that we need E3 back? Do we think that to bring these big games out, to get these big deals, to get these big showings, E3 is definitely needed? Asa, do you want to see E3 return? And do you really think it will? Remembering that they cancelled E3, I think it was a couple of months out after stating that it would be there, and now they're stating it's going to be there next year. Do you think we'll see it? Do we need it?
So the ESA that E3 have said that E3 is coming back as an in-person digital event. Jeff Keighley also says that Summer Game Fest is going to be an in-person and digital event. So that wasn't in person this year, but they are expanding to try and do the same. And so much depends on where Microsoft want to be, because they're the only supporter that's really taking these shows seriously and making them worthwhile. And Microsoft have obviously learned that they don't need to pay these people. They can do their own shows. So potentially next year we've got E3 from the ESA, we've got Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, and they're both going to be half of what Summer Game Fest was. All of the partners that they could work with are now going to be split between two shows. All of the people that go and watch these shows are going to be split between two shows. And that's a negative. The ESA should be kicking themselves. They announced in January that they weren't going to do their show this year. They left this wide open gap for Jeff Keighley to walk into and try and exploit. And now they've got to try and claw their way back. The only way that show is going to be successful, as far as I can see, is if Microsoft want to work with them. If Microsoft want to do their own thing, do their own fan fest, do their own announcements, we know PlayStation aren't going to support it. They're not going to get impact out of the third parties that are also going to be working with Microsoft and Jeff Keighley as well. So it's a shame because I'm all for the in-person events. So Gaz and I were supposed to go and represent Game On Daily and meet all of these people that we talk to all the time. Because obviously in the podcast scene and around Twitter and Game On Daily, we're talking to people in the States all the time. You in whatever weird country it is that you occupy. We want to meet people.
Wow.
So these in-person events mean a lot. But E3 is going to struggle and Jeff Keighley is going to struggle. So I guess we'll see what it looks like next year. But
do you think it'll be an even split? Look, we know that Phil Spencer's really has been about bringing their community together. Do you think he will now split his show between the two? Is that something that they would do? It would be a misstep, I would think.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because they don't need these shows, and it costs a lot to exhibit at E3 traditionally. Like, it might not cost as much this year because there's so many alternatives, but E3 cost publishers that wanted to do shows there a lot of money. I don't know Jeff Keighley's arrangement with these publishers. It might be a bit different. He might be trying to be a little bit nicer with them in terms of finances and make his money off of the many, many, many adverts that he tends to show. But why would Microsoft pay like tens of thousands of dollars to show at E3 when they've now got an established framework to deliver shows around the world? Sony already backed off years ago, before any of this COVID stuff came along, before anything separated out, and Nintendo were always on the fringes of it. So I know it's hard to see the value of those shows now. It's hard to see how they're going to recover. But
Here's a good thing. Ticket sales, are probably something that could sell the event to publishers, because we know that they'll release early ticket sales, and we know that people will jump on them. We know that they will probably sell out. So I mean, if you've got sell-out shows, publishers will want to be there, right?
will they though?
Oh,
Like,
it
I
depends
wouldn't
on how much they're
confidently buy a
charging.
ticket to E3 this year.
No.
If the ESA said tomorrow, like, buy your tickets for E3 next year, I'm not pre-ordering that. I don't know what's going to be there. Like, the scenario, the landscape is just so shaky.
No, and like,
it could
if
just
you-
be a
if
waste
you
of
think
money.
about it- if you think about it this way, why would they pay that money to exhibit at E3 when they can reach 3 million people on YouTube?
Yeah, but E3's
You know.
special. E3's always been one of
I
those
know.
special events, like
I
yeah.
know, and I think if they want to be successful in the future, they're really going to have to, pull that card, I guess, and they really need to sort of more like very, very, what am I trying to say? Have much more deeper dives into games. I think.
Well, that's
they're
what
going to have to do something special.
that's
Well,
what
they
E3's
do
about,
that
like in person.
at
Yeah.
E3.
Exactly,
Yeah, they
exactly.
do that.
So in person, they show their games in person. People get hands-on with these demos that don't come out for like another year. And that's why E3 is so special. People want to go there because they want to line up for 3 hours to play a game for 2 minutes. People will do that.
Yay.
No, people will do that because they want to get their hands on their favorite games. And you might pick a few games that are showing and just jump on those games and sit there and wait and get your hands on. And that's I know it sounds like it's terrible, but that's a special experience for a lot of people. Pete, do you think we need E3?
Not only that, Risket, the watching a showcase when you're watching it with a room full of people, all that energy, all that excitement flowing through the crowd, then flows through
All
the
those
TV,
sweaty
whatever
gamers
you're watching
that
on.
smell.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, when Keanu Reeves came out on stage and that guy yells out, well,
You're
we love you,"
breathtaking.
or whatever. You're breathtaking. That was an incredibly powerful moment, and it just, it showed through the screen. Now, I agree with Asa. It does depend on what Microsoft does, and whether E3 goes ahead or not. But I think it also is a little bit dependent on what the guys that are putting E3 up do as well. I think they're charging too much, which is why Sony moved away from it in the first place. I think that they overplayed their hand a little bit, and they've been caught out for that. And now there are other alternatives. It puts them in a really difficult position, like whether or not they go ahead with it or not. And we've seen that there are other ways of putting a very successful show on without it actually being E3. So I don't know. If it doesn't go ahead, I would be disappointed.
Do you want it? Do you want an
things.
E3? You want the E3, right?
It's in LA, mate. So I don't know if I I'm in Australia. If I was in the US, definitely, because I probably go there every year. Getting over to E3 for myself is, that's a pretty difficult task. So I don't think that I personally need it. Do I want it? Yes. Yes, I think it's good for gaming.
I think that's pretty telling. Umbra, you do live in the US. I don't know if you've ever attended E3, but with everything that's going on this year and what Ace is saying, they're likely to split the event between the two showcases, the two shows. Are you keen for E3 to come back? Will you go? Will you check it out? Is it something that you want to see?
Actually, yeah, I do want it to come back, and I've always wanted to go to E3, like since I was younger. So it would be nice to have. As far as it needing to exist and all that, I still think it does, just because, it's a storied storied history. But the problem with it now is that, for obvious reasons, Sony pulled out of it, and now you have Microsoft who are doing their own showcases. So it makes it feel like, are they really needed at the end of the day? But I like the whole idea of us coming together and meeting up at these showcases and stuff like that, like E3. So I'll still advocate for it for that reason. I just don't know how necessary it is now. What you like you said, with they don't have to spend money to try to put their stuff on that platform. So that's the way I
And
see it.
COVID came at the very bad time for the people that put E3 together, because it also
Yep.
showed a reason that there doesn't need to be another in-person event at a time when they were struggling, and then Microsoft was trying to build it back up, and trying to get other publishers to go there as well, and then COVID hit, and then everybody couldn't go out. Yeah, I do still think that there's something incredibly and special with being there in person. I think that it's a memory that that you can take home, and it is more special than watching it live on TV.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think that's very, very telling. It's a very, very telling thing that every single person on the panel, Doom, would you like to see in E3 so far, has said that they would like to see it. Doom, is it something that you would be keen to go to? Would you fly over there? Do you want to see it? Do you think E3 still has its place in gaming?
I mean, I would love to attend an E3. However, I would like E3 to maybe have multiple events. I don't know. I think, look, like I said in the chat, there will always be a place for in-person events, always. And I mean, I know these big companies have pulled out, or they're not so sure because of whatever reason, but I think it's needed.
Yeah, I definitely think it's needed.
Steph just put out a great point. They should change the cities. That could keep E3 very fresh. And I really like
the
that.
Olympics, like the winner is Sydney. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
Sydney.
great point. And I think it could keep it fresh, getting a new audience each year, getting everyone a chance at different parts of. I'd say keep it in America, because that's where Xbox is at its biggest. And I don't think every city could hold it, because you really need a place that can produce something like that. But Rayleigh, for example, where they hold the Halo Championships, I think that would be a good city to have it.
I think move it international. That'd keep it super, super fresh. Make it a special event. Bringing new people.
Can you imagine how crazy it would be in Japan? Oh my god.
Yeah, or I mean, maybe not Japan. They're not our Xbox's biggest supporters. But maybe.
Have you seen how many Japanese people have bought Xboxes?
Yeah, lately. Yeah, they're getting a bigger following. That's true. And that's due to the work that Phil Spencer's been doing. But yeah, I think move it internationally. Bring it through Australia, bring it through Europe, bring it through the big Xbox, countries where Xbox.
Yeah, they've got GamesCom in Germany, I think. But yeah, it's not as big as it.
I mean, how many shows are there through the year? Is it 9? Sorry, I just wanted to do that. I just want to moving on to the next topic. But before I do, all of you guys who are in the chat, welcome. Those of you who are continue to support us, you guys are amazing and you power the show. Those of you who are new to the chat, new to the show, thank you very much for giving us your time. Bobby Hawk is one of those who's been extremely active in the chat today. And so thank you guys. Please hit the like button, hit the share button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Starfield. I have specifically and purposefully stayed away from talking about the topic of Starfield so I could talk about it now. It's got some interesting takes out there in the community. And look, when I saw it, I was hyped because I was seeing it. After watching it a few times, I can see some of the critiques are on point, but the critiques are not to be unexpected. This is a Bethesda game. This is a massive RPG and reportedly bigger than we've ever seen. There's takes out there that it's being compared to No Man's Sky. That's ridiculous. The character models aren't great. Look, it's Bethesda. It's not completely about graphics. You're not talking about a Horizon Forbidden West, which is graphically beautiful. But one of the concerns that I have is definitely the frame rate was dipping down to about 25 frames per second a few times during that trailer, which is a serious concern and probably likely a reason why they have delayed this game. Todd Howard has stated, however, that it will have a locked frame rate of 30 FPS with a 4K screen. Sorry, showing. So look, I mean, that's if it's not holding 30 FPS at 4K, that's a bit of an issue. What did you think of Starfield as a whole, Umbra, and what you've been seeing in the community, some of the narratives that are being formed around Starfield? What do you think? Some of them are a bit ridiculous. Some of them have some validity. Where are you at with Starfield? Well, I think that stuff. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. Pete, we'll go to you. We'll go to you real quick. What were your thoughts on Starfield? Some of the narratives that are being formed around it.
I don't care about the narratives. People were always going to bag this game because it's not coming to PlayStation, so people were going to nitpick at it. And that was always going to happen. I look at it more from the point of view that how much have they improved from Fallout, and from everything I've seen in terms of the character models, in terms of the gunplay, in terms of the sheer size of the world. Everything looks like that they have iterated upon and have done, they've taken huge steps forward. It's a Bethesda game, so there's always going to be bugs. That's, known. Does that take away from the game? No. When your character gets shot up million miles up into the air, it's hilarious. So, or if you fall through the earth, or, whatever crazy other stuff happens in Bethesda games, it's actually quite funny and adds to the experience. In terms of the frame rate, it's a little bit concerning, but it was in 4K. Everything I saw looked great, and they do have time to fix the bugs. In terms of the No Man's Sky comparisons that they had, I think that they shouldn't have shown that laser getting the iron out of the ground as the first thing they showed, because my mind jumped straight to No Man's Sky, because it looks incredibly similar to the gameplay you see in No Man's Sky. But No Man's Sky is not going to have the story that Starfield's going to have. It's not going to have the in-depth lore that Starfield's going to have. It's not going to have the created worlds that Starfield's going to have. So yeah, I mean that will die down as time goes on. Some of the things that I really, really liked, being able to design your own ship, that's really cool. The gunplay looked cool. Can't wait to experience the world for myself. Diving in, whether you want to be a pirate, whether you join the Crimson Fleet, whether or not you want to, all the things that you can level up, whether you want to focus on gunplay or a diplomat, that's Bethesda at its core. And so I think the game will be great. And I think that the naysayers out there are just there because they're shitty that this is the first game that Bethesda's going to make that isn't going to be coming to all consoles. All they need to do is buy an Xbox, you can play it day one on Game Pass. And no, I don't get paid by Microsoft.
Asa, I don't know if you're a big Bethesda man. That's a lie. I do know you are. What were your thoughts on Starfield? It's showing, and some of the narratives getting around the community that it's it's going to be a mid game and it's not ready. The character models are terrible. They're cross-eyed. What were your thoughts on the entirety of the showing?
I do pretty much live in Skyrim, so yeah, I definitely have some familiarity with the old Bethesda games and had fair expectations for Starfield before this show. Pretty much as soon as it was announced, we all knew it was going to be Fallout in space, and what they've shown is Fallout in space. It's a bit bigger, a bit longer, a bit wider, and the community or communities, there's obviously multiple, are reacting in ways that are fairly predictable. Thing is, when this game comes out, there are going to be people that don't like it. It's absolutely not a game for everybody. If you're used to your cinematic PlayStation game, it may well be that you'd hate to play Starfield. So the people criticizing it, fair enough, maybe it's not for you. The facial animations are definitely stilted. Guess what? They're not motion captured. It's got 200,000 lines of dialogue, and the NPCs are not motion captured actors' faces, because it's not that kind of game. That's not what a Bethesda game is.
Exactly.
Personally, yeah, I mean, I've played so many hours in Skyrim. I play it in VR, so it's a little bit different. That's my biggest disappointment with Starfield, is that because they're owned by Microsoft and Xbox now, the VR version will never arrive. Whereas if there was no acquisition, it probably would have, because Bethesda were quite supportive of VR. I think some of the criticisms are very valid. So they like to talk about there being like 100 systems and 1,000 planets and 4 major cities.
Mhm.
And then you have to ask, is that 4 per system or per planet? No, it's 4 in total. There's 4 major cities. Yeah, are you sure? There's 1,000 planets and you've got 4 cities. Okay, so some of the structure is a little bit unusual, and Bethesda games have always been such that you can go through the core narrative and the story of it isn't necessarily that long, but the games are really, really wide. You can go off and do whatever else you want for hundreds and thousands of hours. And this is an extreme example of it. I mean, they're already saying that the story, if you were to play through that hard, like dive from point to point on the narrative, it's going to take you 40 to 50 hours. If you play it like that, it's difficult to play a Bethesda game like that because there's just so much that pulls you elsewhere. But even then, a 40 to 50 hour game is too long for some people. So it's definitely not going to be a game for everyone. Like, as grown-ups, you don't necessarily get that long. You don't necessarily want to spend thousands of hours in a single game, especially when you're into like this Game Pass frame of mind where you're getting 10, 15 different games every month to try. Again, it's not for everyone. I'm still excited about it. I was excited about it before the show. Nothing in the show changed my mind. Yes, the frame rate is massively concerning, but hey, I've got a PC, so sod you lot.
Yeah, look, you
Hey,
you
out of
actually brought up a
52.
really good point with the procedural generation, and I just want to clear up something because there's a couple of people in the community acting like procedural generation is a new thing, and Bethesda actually pioneered procedural generation,
Yes.
Procedural generation in games. In Elder Scrolls, they pioneered that that technique and using it with gaming because it does get used in other genres. So, look, it's not a new thing, but you're right, Acer. I agree with that. I just think, how big are these cities? You know, you got 4 cities. I don't think 4 cities sums up what it's going to be. You know, 4 cities could be, you know, it might take you 30 hours to navigate the entire city. It might take you 10. It might take you 1. We don't know because we haven't seen the size of the cities, but we know Bethesda's DNA. So we're likely to get something that has a lot of content in it, Doom.
Yeah, and just on that, Risket, it's major cities, so that, you know, we obviously this is all speculation at this point. So there's most likely smaller places to go. But I think the gameplay that was shown demonstrated that they have fixed a lot of errors that were in Fallout 4 and 76. But you know, again, it's the drops in what was it? What did you say it dropped to?
25 frames per second at some point.
It actually dropped to 12 at some.
12?
In some
I was
cases.
gonna say, it's definitely lower than 25. You
Yeah.
count it on
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
hands, you can watch it refresh.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I'm not playing it. That's it. It's done. No.
No.
And look, I think that's a consideration for why they delayed it. I really do.
Yeah. But look, I think I will play it regardless. It is very exciting. It's the largest game that Bethesda has made. It's very, very looked forward to by the community, and you can see why.
And it's extremely ambitious. Exactly. Umbra, are you with us? He is still not with us. I think.
Yeah, guys,
not
look,
sure
you know,
what's going
you know,
on. Yeah.
when
Yeah,
I
he might
when
be.
I,
He might be.
when I saw that trailer, you know, I was so
Yes,
excited.
I am still here. I am now Doom Umbra.
Yeah. So what was the question again? I'm sorry, I had to step away.
Yeah, no, all good, man, all good. We're talking about Starfield, the comparisons to No Man's Sky or No Man's Skyrim, as you call it, and the character
Right.
models, the fact that they're, you know, they're
Just
we
your take
probably
on Skyrim, mate,
expected
basically.
a little bit
I mean,
more.
on Starfield.
We expected a little bit more from the character models. The frame rate's apparently dropping to, I thought it was 25 frames per second, but apparently as low as 12 frames per second, and the showing was at 4K. So it's you know, there's some worrying things. You know, procedural generation, 1,000 planets, is that necessary? All that sort of thing that you've seen floating around the community this week. What are your thoughts, Umbra?
Yeah, a lot of that. I mean, as far as the frames per second, you could see it while it was showing. It was clear. It was like some of it was pretty low at points. I didn't know it got as low as 12. I didn't know that, but it had got low pretty clear. The animation as far as like the gun controls and things like the gunplay looked solid overall, but the issues with it were like there weren't like the shots didn't feel like they had weight to it, and I think even the animations when you're actually hitting the people, that was too lackluster because they their reactions weren't there. So it was just like it felt like you weren't really doing anything.
It's
So
not
it
an
had its
action
issues.
adventure game. It's an
That's the
RPG,
true.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's true.
size and the scope of this game with 200,000 lines of dialogue, that's not what we should be focusing on. And it's
Yeah.
the same with all Bethesda games. They all hit
Yeah.
like that.
That doesn't mean that
This
they
is
can't.
not
That doesn't mean that they can't improve, and this is what we're kind of. I think people were expecting from Starfield is the improvement. Umbra, sorry to cut you off there. You were saying.
No, you're good. No, I hear what Peter's saying on it, but I mean he's right as far as the type of game it is. But improvement wise, it's just something I feel like they can add to that to strengthen it as far as that goes. Animations is a bit more, put a little bit more into that in the enemy AI when you're hitting them and things like that. Even if it's not necessarily taking away, too much energy because obviously it's an RPG, but stuff like that goes some ways to painting the game in a certain light. Um, I'm wondering about the space combat. I liked everything I saw with it, but I can't help but think about that guy who had broke what he wrote when he supposedly broke the NDA. And I wonder if, we're going to have issues with that later on once we actually get our hands on it. But,
Yeah,
you know,
that
yeah,
rumor does seem a lot more legit now, doesn't it, mate?
it does. So since we saw some certain other things. So as far as that goes, I don't know. I didn't have too many glaring issues with things.
Well, there definitely
I
were
like
some glaring issues. They were looking at their nose with both eyes. Sorry, keep going.
always talking people being cross-eyed looking.
Yeah.
Well, I think some people took like purposeful like shots. It was somebody had took a shot off their phone and tried to
Mhm.
present it like, oh, look at this. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you purposely trying to make the game look away. But yeah, I think I don't know. For me at least, a lot of the things that we saw issues with the things I feel they're going to fix or at least largely correct by the time we actually get our hands on it. So that's what the delay is for, right? Some of the stuff we saw. So
Mhm.
I'm not too worried about it because it's like, yeah, it's going to eventually hit anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of the problem stems from the fact that because the comparisons are coming out to No Man's Sky, and I think Steph pointed out pretty nicely in the chat, is that procedural generation thing where you think that there's just going to be basically empty planets with, and none of the aliens are going to be curated, and nothing's going to be like a Bethesda game is, like where you can go to, the Thieves Guild, or you can join the Mages Guild, or you can go to those, large capital cities and interact with the NPCs, all the things that people love about it. And I just don't see that being the case. Procedural generation is not a bad word. It's not a toxic word. And Bethesda have been using it quite successfully in most of their games for a long time now. So they're just iterating on that. As to Boba's point, he would have been fine with 500 planets. Look, I mean, look, the more the merrier. If you ask me, if it doesn't take away from the game, space is massive. Not all these planets are going to have life on them. Not all of them are going to have cities or anything like that. So it'll depend on how the procedural generation is done, and then how they place assets within those planets. And I hope that I can just go explore and find them for myself. Like little tidbits of lore added in, there, which will be different to how No Man's Sky does it. To your point, Steph. So yeah, look, I think at the end of the day, it is a Bethesda game where you're getting a 30 to 40 hour curated story, and you can do that story at your leisure. But then you can also go explore space. I was disappointed that they showed it in 30 frames a second. I'm guessing that's because they're so far out. I know a lot of people have been saying, is it going to even have a 60 frames per second mode? I can't see it not having one. That would be craziness in this day and age. So yeah, look, we do need to see more, but the game is, a while out now, so they've got a little bit of time to fix all the bugs.
Yeah, well, they're not known as Bethesda for no reason. So, I mean, it's kind of an expected thing.
Oh,
It's definitely it's an expected thing. I think everyone expects these bugs in Bethesda games for now. So if you think it's a new thing and it's a gotcha, it ain't a gotcha. That's just what Bethesda's like. We know this, but it's because these games are so ambitious and it looks ambitious. And to me, will I be playing it? I don't know, man. It's on Game Pass, so I'll give it a try. But I mean, it's a massive game. So for a family man, a man that works, it's it's going to take small bites out of games as he can. It's probably not a type of game for me. For Acer, though, I expect to see this front and center on the non-pancake 3D multi-directional Ready Player One headset.
If it
You gonna
were
be running it?
available, I would be all over it. If they gave me a VR version and I could run around on my treadmill, that would be like another
Can you
lifetime
imagine?
away.
Well, they definitely will. They definitely will.
You
I
don't think they
don't
will?
see it. I wish they would. I think the modding community might have a fair stab at it, and we'll see how they get on. But Microsoft are not letting their studios do any such thing, and it's a shame for me. But
Yeah. Hugate in the chat says it was Craig 2.0, unfortunately, just like he feared. Yeah, look, some of the character
Somebody
models.
pointed out, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that the heads were turned around too at points. I didn't see that. But
apparently
that
there's
just
a
shows you.
snippet of a
Yeah,
character with a
some people
backwards head.
actually zoomed in really closely. Were like, because that's how they do Xbox games. Like, oh, look at this. Look at the foliage, as they called it. The foliage in the background instead of the foliage. Look at the foliage back there. It's not moving or this. So they started zooming in, and apparently they found somebody's head was turned the other way.
Yeah.
that's
Exorcist
Does anyone
fine.
actually
I've
pay
said
attention to
before,
that
if they
garbage?
Sorry.
want like this game to have no bugs in it, we'll achieve actual space travel first. It's a Bethesda game. It's going to have bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, even Digital Foundry put out their video, I think, a few hours before the show, and going over the game. They didn't really go too hard at it, which was, I thought, a little bit unusual, seeing it's an Xbox game and their ponies. No, I'm just joking. So, yeah, they did point out the issues, and I don't think the very first scene of that smoke looked great. But they didn't go too hard at it, and a lot of the things they did point out, they were quite impressed with. So, and their take on it was very similar to mine, where if you look where they've come from Fallout 4 to Starfield, that creation engine that they have iterated on, it looks like it's definitely headed in the right direction.
Yes.
I just want to say
yes.
that Pete's views are not representative of Xbox Infinite. All opinions are his own. Sorry, Doomy, what were you saying?
No, I agree. I agree with Pete. How far they have come is amazing.
Doomy's views are not representative of Xbox Infinite.
Yeah, you beat me.
Is anyone else? Umbra? Umbra's views are not anyone else? Come on.
Oh, all right. There's about to be two open for application spots on this panel.
Acer's views are not.
Sorry, Umbra, you were going to say. My bad for interrupting.
No, I
Or
was
Doomy.
about to co-sign. Yeah, I was going to
No,
co-sign.
Oh my God, that's it. All of you
No.
do not represent.
No. You know what? You know what I'm excited for in Starfield?
What's that?
Photo mode.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
really? I would.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to
It
see
was
those
not-
cross-eyed photos, man. They're gonna be awesome. Like, check out how this dude's looking at his nose. It's amazing.
No.
Richie's views are not representative of Xbox.
Risk it. Just so you know, I'm gonna have a wicked helmet on, so it's not gonna matter. No one's even gonna see it. Even though I don't think they're cross-eyed. Yeah. I posted it on my Twitter. I can't. Why? What the hell? Yes, there's photo mode, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, well, hopefully if they can polish up. Here's the other thing as well. When you got to realize about Bethesda, Bethesda's bought these games for years and years and years and years and
Well, you
years.
don't. The mod community does. Bethesda re-released them after years and years and
That's
years.
well,
and
there you
years.
go. That's true. That's true. That's a fair point. But they do keep adding content for quite a long time, right? To these games, we know that they do. I mean, they're still adding content for Elder Scrolls. Acer. Whether they work on bug fixes or not, that's probably a debatable thing. But they do release content, and they may release updates, that'll stop people from looking at the tips of their noses. That would be nice. Yeah, look, it's not that bad. The eyes weren't that bad. I just like taking the piss out of it. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
hilarious.
we know.
Look, we'll move on in topics. And there's something I just wanted to mention on the showcase as one last thing about the showcase, which I noticed and I found interesting. And I don't think anyone's talking about this, but I think it's a little bit bigger of a thing than people are thinking that it is. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a lot of ABK games in that showcase. Quite a few, more than I expected. Now, I think this
Were
might-
they? I didn't even notice those.
I think this might be representing to us and showing us the confidence they have in the deal. And I also just wanted to talk about possibility of this deal, coming a little bit earlier than people think, because it's been slated for 2023 fiscal year. Now, Acer, I know that you talk to Phil on a regular basis because you are famous within the community. Can you tell us any inside information? Is this deal going to go through?
Actually, I don't talk to Phil as often as I used to. We fell out over VR, so we're not really getting along.
You broke up.
Yeah. We just don't
First the
see eye
Beatles,
to eye
now
on,
you.
like, important things. Activision Blizzard have always had massive marketing deals to put their games front and center. There was an E3, I can't remember what year it was, but Sony started with Destiny and Microsoft started with Call of Duty. So this is going way back when Microsoft had the Call of Duty rights. But that's how powerful Activision Blizzard's marketing deals were back then, that they got the opening of both of the major shows at an E3. And they can't make those deals at the moment. So regardless of Microsoft's confidence in the deal and Activision Blizzard's confidence in the deal or otherwise, Activision cannot talk to Sony and say, can we put like Overwatch 2 in your show right now? That's just not a conversation that can happen. So and it's kind of open goal
anyway,
for open net for Microsoft on that one.
Yeah. So
ABK is toxic at the moment.
Do you think that this is because they can't make those deals, right? They definitely they can't make any outside deals of what they would normally do. They have to operate as normal as they normally would, and anything that's in that realm they can do. Do you think that though, because of all these ABK games coming into Microsoft's show, do you think this is showing confidence in the deal? Asa?
I mean, they are confident in the deal, and they have to be, and they have to show confidence, because if they
$3 billion
they front any other way, then they're hurting their own cause. So yeah, whether they're genuinely confident or not is hard to read, because they have to present as confident either way. So
okay, before I move on to another panel,
it just makes sense for them to be here.
Any predictions on when you think that this deal is going to land?
I don't care. February.
Before Diablo 4 comes out, so it's free.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah. I hope so.
Yes, definitely.
Umbra.
Modern Warfare 2 will be the last one I buy.
Do you see this?
Do
you see this as a move?
They're talking about it's closing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're talking about the deal is supposed to close in July, right?
Yeah,
so,
fiscal year 2023.
Yeah.
So, June, July,
yeah. Okay, so yeah, I feel like I think they'll have a way of having it done by that point. I think the whole ABK being shown like that, the reason they did that is because they know by that point, like you said, confidently, I think they know that those will be ready to be in Game Pass. And they'll probably announce it at the next showcase or something like that. That's the way I see it. And then we'll get all those slew of Call of Duty games added to it and everything else like that. I'm not buying Modern Warfare 2, although I did recently play through the 2018 campaign and loved it, or 2019 campaign and loved it. But knowing that it's going to Game Pass eventually, it's like, why would I?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can definitely expect these games to hit Game Pass. Pete, do you see this as a confidence move? Do you think that we're going to see this deal pushed to later in this year, maybe earlier in next year?
I don't know. I haven't been really following the deal. I know that there was. Look, it's all political at the moment in America. Unfortunately, I've really been trying to stay away from all that garbage. I don't know when the deal will go through. The deal will go through when it goes through. In terms of there being all those ABK games in there, I think that does make a really good impression in terms of the deal going through. And I think it was very smart for Microsoft to do that. Whether or not they had marketing rights with these games prior, I'm not actually sure, or whether they actually did it, to show an air of confidence. That's debatable. But look, I mean, the deal's going to go through, guys. It's a $3 billion breakup clause. Microsoft know what they're doing. They have the best lawyers in the business. It's only going to be a matter of time before these games are free for us on Game Pass.
Absolutely. Doom, did you think it was a smart move for Microsoft to be throwing these Activision Blizzard games into their showcase and just kind of bolstering that confidence in the community that this deal is going to land? Do you think it's going to land early?
No, I don't think it's going to land early. You know, their roadmap was for 12 months, so the deal will be completed in the next 12 months, whether that's before Diablo comes out or not. And you know, anyway, you shouldn't complain because, you know, either way you're supporting the games anyway. So but yeah, in the next 12 months for sure, and I think it is a good move.
Yeah, I think it's a very clever move, and I do think it's. I'm hoping. Maybe this is hope. I'm hoping that it goes through early. That would be awesome. I would love to see Diablo 2 come to Game Pass, especially since Umbra's brought it. So that would make
Yeah.
that would make me happy. I'd have a chuckle. I mean, it's happened to everyone. You bought a game and then boom, it's in Game Pass. Guardians of the Galaxy for me. I was like, God damn it.
It happened to a few things. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it happened to Monad as well. Poor bloke. Yeah. We'll move on in the topics and we'll come back to another negative. And we have to talk about it. And it's frankly straight up bullshit how this all went down. I'm talking about the Halo Infinite debacle earlier in the week where they released an emblem for the Juneteenth. And I'll go to Umbra for this one. And if you can explain to people who are not from America what Juneteenth is first, and then give us your thoughts. They released a Juneteenth emblem and named it Bonobo. If you don't know what a bonobo is, it is a cousin to the chimpanzee, which is a great ape. And there have been references, racist references to people of color using ape. So it was a very, very poor choice, a very, very poor mistake. And just another misstep for Halo. I don't know how they could, frankly, fuck up any worse than they have been already. It's just misstep after misstep. And man, I haven't picked up Halo for some time, and it just does not make me want to pick it up again. Umbra.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunate. I've said the same. It's like, damn. It's like they can't get right. It's like some curse was placed on 343 or something. It's like one thing after another, and it's like the simplest things, it seems like, because I don't know where the overview was, or oversight it rather, to at least check these things before you put it out. Now, innocently enough, I know people may not have known what a bonobo is. Most people.
Two seconds before you do go into it, can you just let people know what Juneteenth is? Because I know I did not know what it was. So, and then move into...
So Juneteenth here in America is for the emancipation of enslaved people here, my people, of course, Black people. And it's now a holiday here for June 19th here in America. So it's a federally recognized holiday. And obviously, like I said, in celebration of us getting our emancipation from slavery. So the bonobo situation, they did it, obviously, they named it, the nameplate that, in celebration of Juneteenth. But as you had elaborated on, the bonobo is actually a great ape, and calling Black people to dehumanize them, monkeys or other animals and such, has been a long time racist trope and issue. So to me, and to many people, it just felt like so purposeful. And even after, Bunny Ross came out and apologized, UNICEF came out to apologize. And they corrected it within 32 minutes. The issue that I still have, and I'm sure a few other people have,
2 minutes too long.
Yeah, that for one is too long, right? Because that should have been something that got squashed before it actually happened. The case is that it was some old Bungie tool, but then I wondered, like, how did it transfer from being a tool that Bungie used to being a nameplate name, specifically something that tied to Juneteenth? And just so happened to be a great ape.
It's very coincidental, isn't it?
A little too coincidental. And
look,
that's the problem I have. So they apologized, but I cannot help but wonder if somebody who was responsible for the nameplates, because there is a specific team for that does these types of things, the UI situation and all that. I can't remember their name, but they showed them one time. I can't help but feel like maybe one of them secretly did this as some joke to them, thinking they would get away with it without anyone really paying attention and knowing about it. I can't help but shake that feeling for some reason.
Yeah,
I'm not going to beat around the
it's a
bush,
slap in the
Umbra.
face.
The fact of the matter is, we all know that there's been pushback about this political agenda that is being pushed into all things entertainment, and I'm going to quantify this straight away by saying I don't like it. I don't like all this politics being pushed into our pastime. That being said, I do know that Bonobo and other Great Apes names have been used in Bungie toolsets since Halo 1. So yes, that is the case. That it's not only Bonobo is used as a toolset, but other Great Apes names as well. That all being said, this was done purposely by a Bungie 343 employee. There's no other way about it. There wasn't a mistake. Someone's gone in there and made the Juneteenth banner and named it Bonobo on purpose to be hurtful. It's never because look, my reasoning for that is it's never happened before.
I'm just going to add a caveat before you keep going. I'm just going to add a caveat. It's Pete thinks he doesn't know for sure. I just want to.
Oh yeah, this is my opinion. Yeah, completely my opinion, and it might not be everyone's opinion. But I believe that this was done purposely by a 343 employee to cause hate and pain as a pushback to the politicalization of basically everything. And I think that that's disgusting. It's just a banner, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's wrong. I can't speak. It infuriates me that it got out there, and I don't know how much more of this Halo can withstand. And I think you're right, Umbra. They're cursed, mate.
Look, I'll just throw it on the end there. Like, this brings up other questions that we've been asking the entire time since Halo's release, and also about Xbox Studios as a whole. What's going on over there? This sort of thing should have been caught before it got out of the gate. Where's the management? Where is the oversight, as Umbra said? Where is that? What's happening over there? Especially at 343, but I suppose in a smaller sense over at all of Xbox's studios. I think they need to step in and take control of what's going on in their studios. Doom, sorry, you were going to say.
I was going to say that it was so disappointing to see this, and I don't know if it was done on purpose. I really don't know how these names are generated. But the chat seemed, maybe a disgruntled team member or something like that. But yeah, it's disappointing, and I haven't touched Halo in ages just because of all the issues that have been going on. So it just sort of just adds fuel to the fire, really.
It really, really does, and it adds some issues. Asa.
Just really quickly add to that. So the bit, so Umbra was saying that the whole, they've got like a tool set with that name. How does that translate into like a color plate, whatever it is, an emblem? I don't know what the thing is that they actually released.
That's what I said.
Yeah, how does it translate to a nameplate? You're absolutely right. So the excuse that they gave doesn't hold water. But what's really absent,
the fact that it's never happened before as well, Asa, ever.
Right.
Yeah, but what's really missing is they haven't come out and said like they acknowledge it shouldn't have happened, but they haven't said that like in response they're going to investigate and they're going to determine whether this was human error or human trash, and they're going to respond appropriately and accordingly. They've just made up a weird excuses and hoped that people will forget about it, and that's the bit that I think probably hurts more. Like, prove that you're tell us you're responding to it. You don't need to like air your dirty laundry after the fact, but you need to come out and say that you're investigating this, and that's weird that that's absent.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good point. Weird. That's a good point, Asa. I wonder if the case is that they know who was responsible, but they don't want to bring that heat onto the studio itself, so they're kind of doing it hush hush.
No, but even if they did know, and they know the issue that happened, they could just say that we're aware of the issues and we're dealing with them accordingly.
No, look, I don't think they will and can, and they can't name people, and I don't think it's even policy for them to bring. I know HR wouldn't allow them to even say, "Hey, it was a developer in this team that," and they wouldn't do that anyway.
Could put workers at risk as well, couldn't it? Really,
absolutely.
at risk of like life-threatening injuries.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to air the dirty laundry, but you need to say that you're doing something about it.
Yeah. Well, this will never happen again is not good enough, because I believe that's what Bonnie Ross came out to say. Sorry, this will not happen again. But you're absolutely right, eh? So they need to say this is what we're doing to repair these issues. And maybe they're doing something in the background to do that, because they would have about 50, 60, possibly 100 lawyers working on what response they're going to be putting out right now, I would imagine. So it's not a quick process. So we may still yet see something or in the way of a response, but it's probably a bit too late. And look, a bad topic, but I feel a topic that we just really had to talk about, especially, I'm going to.
I hate this.
Yeah, I'm going to shift it over
I
to
love Halo.
I'm going to shift it over to a topic that's related. The management of these studios just seems to be going awry. We're hearing problems coming out of lots of studios over a lot of time, all managed by Microsoft. So what's going on there? What can they do to fix it? Asa, do you think that some of the heads, some of the big guys like Matt Booty, Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond need to step in and take a little bit more control over the studios? That this hands-off approach doesn't seem to be bearing the fruit that they wanted.
Yeah, that's like, from sitting outside, it's easy to speculate and say that their strategy's gone all wrong. We might look back at this in 2 years' time. They might have a suite of stellar games, and we say, hey, giving these studios their creative freedom was definitely the right thing to do. But sitting here in this moment in time, you look at me, it's the studios that they bought in 2017. They've had nearly 5 years for like Undead Labs and Compulsion Games and all the rest of it. And you have to wonder, like, how does this get by? What would we see if these studios had been acquired by Sony? Would they have just sat on them for 5 years and not delivered so much as a trailer? Hard to imagine. So it's difficult because every studio is different, and Microsoft have a lot of studios to manage, and the team and structure they had in place seemingly weren't particularly well prepared for it. But 2 years' time, we might look at it very differently. It's all about what they deliver. So
this is true. The truth is in the delivery. Pete, do you think that we've got some? I mean, it's stark. We've talked about it many times. It just seems to continue to happen, that things that you could be basing on management, putting down to management, slip out in the community.
Yeah, I don't know about this, mate. I think Microsoft had a plan going forward from when Phil Spencer got there. They needed to work out all their internal, things. They moved Xbox headquarters into the actual Microsoft building. They bought studios starting with Exile, Obsidian, and then Bethesda. But then COVID hit. And I think all their plans got thrown into a big whirlwind that just taking time to work through. Everyone's now having to learn to work from home. I've spoken about it before. That's incredibly hard to do in a creative industry. I think that if that didn't hit, we would have seen these games already. They would have, like, Phil set up this whole generation to win. He doesn't want to come second anymore, and you can tell that by the amount of money that's being pumped into Xbox and the amount of work they've been doing. But COVID just hit at the wrong time for them, unfortunately. And so that's why we're seeing all this pushback of games. And it's not just Xbox that's been affected. Everyone's been affected. We still haven't heard anything from God of War, which was meant to have come out in 2021. So it's not just Xbox. Eventually, all these games that are in the pipeline will come to fruition. That's when the proof on whether or not the management is doing its job will, that's when your answer will be there. Basically, at the moment, all we can do is speculate.
Yeah, look, I can understand what you're saying, Pete, but I think, as Asa said, 5 to 6 years in some cases, it's too long for development, especially when you've bought a studio. You've just bought a studio. I want to see something produced. I mean, if I'm a business owner, a multi-trillion-dollar business owner, and I'm buying studios, I want them to produce a product for me. And if they're not producing, I mean, I think they need to step in. Umbra.
Yeah, look what Hargeet just said. And he's exactly right. And I think Hargeet has great takes on this. It does take about 5 years for a developer to make a AAA game, and he's right. Undead Labs and also Compulsion, these were not AAA studios beforehand that are being built up to be AAA studios, and so they need to go through that learning process as well. Games take a long time to develop. put into that the difficulties that have been added due to COVID. We're impatient.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
gamers.
And so, like,
It's
I
as
can
simple as that.
understand. I can understand what Hargate's saying, Pete, and I can understand what you're saying. But as Ace has said, to produce not so much as a trailer, not so much as we're still in the code name, time of these studios. They should be well past that. At 5 years in development, you should be close to putting a game out. So 6 years, right? So we're talking a year away. We should have heard something. So 12 months. We want to hear the games coming in the next 12 months. We've seen all the games
5
coming in the
years
next 12 months,
development
and that isn't
without
that
COVID,
isn't
mate.
what's coming. Like those games aren't there. We haven't seen anything. So at 5 years, if you're adding a year for COVID, that's 6 years. We should still be seeing something. We should be seeing a trailer. We should seeing at least a title name or something of what they're working on. We're not seeing that. And that means that these games are further out than coming in the next 12 months, coming in the next 2 years probably. So, look, I don't think you can't use COVID as that excuse. And Hargate categorically disagree with you, man. I understand what you're saying and I get what you're saying, but you've got to think about it logically. Like you would hear something, you would see something, and we have heard and seen nothing. Yeah, we saw a trailer for State of Decay, Hargate. I can understand what you're saying there. We know what they're working on, but what about Compulsion? What about an Exile? Umbra, what's your take on this?
Even seeing a trailer of State of Decay, that does not mean that those devs did that. As we've come to find and hear, I've even spoken with people behind the scenes at Microsoft that actually work at Microsoft. A lot of times, those are third parties that do those trailers. So that's not even Undead that did that trailer, more than likely. So the thing is I agree with you on that risk. At this point, I do understand that COVID is a real thing and it affected a lot of development, but you only really hear that issue here with Xbox in any real capacity. I'm not saying it hasn't affected other studios or other platforms like PlayStation or Nintendo, but you don't constantly hear that excuse for them versus Xbox and Microsoft. So I can see why it's problematic to some. And I agree with you on the part that we should be able to see something by this point, a vertical slice, some type of overview. That's why we were clamoring for Fable to be shown, because it felt like they could show something, give us an idea of what the world looks like, to give us an idea of what the characters look like. All of that seems to have, they've had enough time for that at this point, because conception of that came around 2018 when they were acquired. It's 2022.
Yeah,
I
Phil
think
Spencer
at this point,
specifically said after they show a trailer, they don't want to show the game again until gameplay is ready.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that philosophy I know he got that because of obviously what happened with Halo and things of that nature too.
Not only
Which,
that, the community was raving about that. They were
that's
sick of
true.
seeing CGI trailers. They wanted
That
to
is
see
true.
gameplay, and so if they're not ready, they're not ready.
I
You have
agree
to be
with that to a
patient.
degree. I agree with that to a degree, but it seems like at this point, with all of these studios they have, because until the Activision situation is done, I think they have what 23 studios right now. So
Yeah, somewhere in I think it's 30. I think we're in the realm
It's
of 30.
31 now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, grown from
is it
23.
31? It's 31 before Activision.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Well,
another 33 coming
31 studios.
with Activision.
Yeah, well, after all of that, it's like 30 plus studios. Let's just say 30 studios. If you have that many studios and not anything, you can't show anything from any of them after all
Yeah,
this
Sante
time.
makes a good point. Phil's been burned too many times to show the game early as well. I think
I
he's
know that's what it
keeping his
is.
cards, closer
I can
to
tell
his
that's what it
chest.
is. I can
Yeah.
tell that's what he feels, but it feels like to me, I think maybe he's being a little too reactive to that. That's why I feel I agree with Risk on, is because at this point, that they might do other things to complement the situation by saying, yeah, we got this third party deal or we have that, but people are literally questioning where are first party titles, and we have nothing to show for this year. Nothing.
Exactly. And
So
I mean, you guys are talking about, I mean, Pete, you keep bringing up, and Hargate keeps bringing up State of Decay and games that have already been shown to back your argument. But the games that haven't been shown have been in development for a long time. Asa made a good point in the chat there. We Happy Few was released in 2016. Yes, they have to build a studio. Yes, they've got more cash. Yes, they're shifting around, because I know they've shifted their studios also. So you can understand that. But at this point in their development, 5, 6, how many is that? Well, it's more than 5 years after they finished their last game. They should have at least the name of the game and some sort of concept art to show us. That's what's going on. Everyone keeps asking this
Well,
question. If there was nothing wrong, if there was no issue, if they were taking a reasonable amount of time, these questions wouldn't be getting asked. Asa.
The compulsion in particular, all of those first set of studios, there's a couple of things. The first is that when they were acquired by Microsoft, that wasn't day one for these studios. They had works in progress in theory, like effectively what Microsoft were buying. So, compulsion releasing a game in July 2016 and having nothing today, someone at Microsoft should be frustrated by that. For us as players, part of it is our impatience. And if these games, like I say, in 2 years' time, we happy if you just Google it. It's 26th of July 2016 it came out. I don't know what platforms. I can't be bothered to click around much further, but it's been out for a long time. And it was definitely out before they were acquired. And so it's not day one. And these studios have been working, but we are impatient as players. And in 2 years' time, if Compulsion Games release their game that we know that they're working on, and it's absolutely phenomenal, then all will be forgiven. And everyone will say, Microsoft were right to have the studio exactly as they did. So both sides, as is usually the case, both sides of the
Sitting on
argument
the
have
fence.
a
No
point.
sitting on the fence on Xbox Infinite, mate. You might get away with that shit on Game On Daily, but it doesn't fly here, bro.
Sorry,
sorry to interrupt you, mate.
That's all good. I'm done. That's all I had to say. I'm going to stay firmly on the fence.
I think they're well within their rights to hold back until it's ready. Like, I don't know, what is the rush? I don't understand. Like, why? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and we don't. Do we need to know? Like, do I?
Yes,
care?
Doomy.
Not really.
Yes, Doomy. We need to know. It's a confidence thing because Xbox has not recently had a very bad generation last generation, and they're stepping in the right direction, but they've yet to prove that they've stepped into the arena with their best foot forward. They've yet to prove it. They've yet to show gamers. And if you want to bring people into your ecosystem, you need to form trust within its community that you already have. And that will bring people into your, as well as games. There are many things, but this is one of the things. So yes, Doomy, they do need to. They have to do that.
It doesn't necessarily have to be done by first-party games now that Game Pass is a thing. We're getting Scorn, Deathloop, 40K, Darktide, and a lot more games before the end of the year. So, and they're all going to be coming to Game Pass. So I think Game Pass negates a lot of that first-party stuff, because that's a very old way of thinking and a very old or last gen mentality, I think, since Game Pass has been so successful.
No, I don't think we're there yet, mate. As soon as we start getting first parties in Game Pass and Xbox proves itself, you can't run a Game Pass. Game Pass numbers were not flagging. They were steady, but not massive and nothing to write home about until they announced that we are going to start bringing our first party games to Game Pass. So first party is extremely important. It is definitely not an old way of thinking at all. It is definitely not last gen.
Horizon 5 did fantastic and Halo Infinite did fantastic, so...
That's Horizon, Gears, and Forza. They're always going to do fantastic because they're fantastic studios and fantastic games. But people aren't coming across from other platforms to come into this ecosystem because of Horizon, Gears, and Forza. If they wanted that, they would have already been here. They want to bring in new people. They got to bring new IPs.
And it points to what I said before. All this was organized to get this generation up and running, but COVID hit smack bang in the middle at the wrong time. So these games have been delayed 6 months up to a year. So we have to just be patient. I agree
6 months up to a year.
The jury is out on whether these games are going to be good or not, and whether or not Microsoft can handle this amount of studios, and whether or not the hands-off approach is the right approach. But I'm not going to, ad talk them before the answer is there. I think that they're dealing with the situation as best that they can.
So you're telling me you don't think that there's any issues behind Xbox's first-party studios as a whole with management? You think management's absolutely perfect, they're nailing it, they should stay hands-off?
Well, we just don't know the answer to that until we see the games. That's what I'm saying. We just don't know the answer to that until we see the games.
And what you're also saying is it doesn't concern you that Compulsion, a game that's been in development for nearly 7 years, has yet to even release the name, type, scope, even some art, anything about the game. That doesn't concern you at all.
No, it doesn't. And Huggy, it's right. Psychonauts 2, Ghostwire, Deathloop, all first party games that were released to rave reviews. So
Absolutely,
they
and
have
they're
released them. Unfortunately,
released.
they just had
They're released under a
timed
third-party
exclusivity
banner,
deals.
Hargate. They were developed under
Yeah.
third party. They were not developed under Microsoft. You can't
Listen,
use those because
Right.
they were
I was gonna say
developed under a different
we
moniker.
can give credit to Xbox, but we know that those were in works before they were even acquired fully. So that's not really something I can say. Yeah, Xbox produced these. They really didn't.
Hmm.
If we're being real,
Exactly, and
you
it's
know,
not
I'm
produced
going
under
to
their
still credit.
methodology.
I'm still going to credit the first party, but
But
we
how
know
can
that
you
that
say
was in
something's
development
wrong
beforehand.
without
Hmm?
actually any proof of there being anything wrong? Now, I have said prior on this podcast that I think Matt Booty has got too much on his hands now. I think he's in
I think he
charge of
does too.
too many studios. I think that he needs to be alleviated of some of that. And maybe someone else can come in and help him. I know that they did just recently restructure the whole gaming division of Xbox. And especially after the ABK deal goes through, I think they'll definitely have too much on his hands. But I'm not sure how they're going to do that. We know Todd Howard is looking after the Bethesda umbrella, and we know that Bobby Kotick is going to be moved on with that golden parachute deal. Where we're yet to see who's going to fill his role going on into the future. But I still think Matt's got too much on his hands at the moment, so maybe that's something that they can look into. But in terms of the quality of games or whether or not they're doing anything right or wrong, we won't know until we see these games.
No, you're right. And how do we know anything's wrong, Pete? Is all the rumors
Um,
that we've been hearing coming out. So we know stuff's happening. We've heard developers come out and say things. We've heard articles from Jason Schreier, who's usually as much of a dick as that guy is, on point. So, like, how do we know something's wrong? Well, where there's smoke, there is fire. Sorry, Umbra.
No, you're good. I feel like, yeah, Matt, but I agree with Pete that it feels like we don't know, right? But it feels like Matt might have his hands full with all these studios. It's a lot of work, and his whole hands-off approach that the studios have pointed out that they have. And so, like, real creative freedom. I don't know if it's a positive or a negative, and it seems like it may be a case of too much freedom in that case where there's not anything being met. And I can only go back to relate that to 343 situation when they showcased the gameplay of that the first time for Halo Infinite. And we were introduced to Craig. It's like, how did you all allow that to be shown that way? So to me, there seems to be some lack of something, and that's not all on 343. Phil and team had to see that before it was released, and they were like, okay, show that. So something is wrong here. Quality control reasons why I would say quality control. Why I would say seems to be some type of error there. Like, I don't know if their hands are full, if they're seeing something and they think it looks good versus reality. I don't know what the issue is, but my only thing I can point out, because for instance, Hargeet is saying for these games he named, like he says, well, Spider-Man can be added for Sony. Well, Sony still funded that game. Now, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's first party, whatever. It is first party. It's not on any other platform. Well, it will be soon, but you know what I mean? So my only thing is to say Xbox, that's uniquely an Xbox issue. It really is. If we're being fair, and I don't move goalposts for people. I defend Xbox all the time. Anybody that knows me knows this. So I'm just saying that there seems to be some type of issue here within management or something somewhere in Xbox where they can't get a cadence of releases proper to properly get them out. I feel, and it's always the case where we have to say, well, let's wait till next year. We're saying it again. We have to wait till 2023.
I definitely
I-
think that's a problem.
Yeah.
The wait till next year's E3 thing is getting a little bit old. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, Unbro.
No, you're good. It just feels like it's a constant wait until next year thing. And it used to be a troll that the PlayStation guys did toward us. But man, it's become more true and more true as this time is going on. And it's hard to really kind of defend that after a while, and listen, I still believe that, yeah, next year we will get these, despite the trolls that they will do. Yes, I do believe 2023 will be the year. I'm saying that to say that. I just feel like it's always the case of something negative being pushed back on Xbox.
Yeah,
as far as
Absolutely.
game goes.
Absolutely, bro.
Well,
I agree with look, I do. I definitely agree with everything you said there. And yet, look, guys, keep in mind, look, we are Xbox fans, Xbox players, but at some point and with some subjects, you really do have to call them out, and give the feedback. I mean, we're a tiny show, but there's bigger shows that feel the same way we do, that feed back into Microsoft, that they listen to, and they'll hopefully take this feedback on board, and they'll start, giving us at least some answers, or reassuring its community, because I don't think this showcase really reassured this community. Pete, I'll let you go, and then I think we're going to wrap up for the day, because I know Ace is up. It's probably getting pretty close to 3 a.m.
And I made the point earlier on the show that I think Game Pass negates a lot of this first-party stuff, but we're getting Scorn, we're getting Deathloop, we're going to get 40K Darktide, we're going to get Plague's Tale Requiem, all coming to Game Pass. So although they're not first-party, there's going to be so much for us to play that are going to be free of charge on Game Pass. Do I want to see more from Xbox? Yes, definitely. Do I think that, it's all doom and gloom? No, I don't. And I think that we can say that, at the end of the day, Ghostwire is an Xbox game. So is Deathloop. So is Psychonauts. I know they weren't paid and bought for by Microsoft there, until the acquisition, but they are still Xbox games.
Yeah, but they're not produced by Xbox. That's the point of the conversation. You got to look at the context that we're talking about. When you're talking about trust in the community and how things are produced and what's happening within their studios and management, you can't use those games because they weren't produced under that management. They weren't produced with that trust. So that's a moot point. I mean, I get they're Xbox games. Yeah, I'm not going to argue that point. They definitely are. They weren't produced under Xbox though, so you can't use them as proof that the management's doing something right, because that's management of a completely different team. Now they have new management, and how is that being handled? So look, I will move on to the end of the show, to the outros. Asa, thank you so much. I think you just said that it's like getting close to 4 a.m. over there, man. Thank you very much for sticking around for the entirety of the show. You're an absolute champion. We really appreciate you. Takes are amazing. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We all know that you're super famous. Feels best, mate. And please let people know where we can find you, what you're up to, and what you'll be playing.
Yes. No, thanks for the invite again. It's great to be back on the show. So it's always a good time. You can find me on the Game On Daily channel tomorrow on Go Live. We have that every Saturday. It's 9 p.m. UK time. You can do your own maths. It's too late for me to tell you what time it is in different time zones.
Fair.
And I'm playing around on my little mini channel, Asa_Game On Daily, where I do my own bits and pieces, including some people say I don't talk enough when I go on, particularly on our own show on Go Live. I don't talk enough. So I did 2 hours by myself on Thursday. So if you want to hear what I have to say, you can hear it on my own channel as well. Playing all sorts of things. I tried my Total War game today. I've got the Turtles game to play. I've got a little bit of PlayStation going on. I still need to get through Horizon Forbidden West. There's always a ton of games to play. It's just about finding the time. And yeah, that's me. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic.
Definitely way too much fence sitting from you, mate.
Yeah, it's getting uncomfortable up there, but
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, as always, man. Thank you very, very much. And Ace's channel and Game On Daily will be linked in the chat there, so please get over there if you haven't already watched the show, which I'd be surprised if you haven't, or you haven't visited Ace's channel. It is a laugh. He is an absolute champion and funny to watch, man. And I don't know why more people don't get over there, because I had a ball every time I was there. Which is why when I was in the UK, I spent a lot of time in your Twitch chats, because you're funny as Umbra. Every week comes down, holds the show down. You're an absolute champion. Your takes are always on point. I appreciate you because you mostly agree with me. So unlike Pete, who's not getting an outro this week again. Please let the people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to, what you'll be playing this week.
Yes, JediKnightPete's reviews and views of anything is not reflective of Xbox Infinite. No, I'm joking. So I just wanted to say for the contest, because we did say we wanted to announce the winners actually of the contest for the Series S. It seems to be a bit of an issue though, because there are some people who I wanted to try to get an understanding if they're actually on Twitter and follow the other parts of the contest rules. So these names here I'm going to name. If you all don't get in contact with me before the end of the night, you're just going to be eliminated. I'm just going to tell you that. And I'm going to do the drawing tonight. So for those who did follow this, you're not going to be named. Only those I'm naming are those who did not follow the rules. Jimbo, that's JIMMBO. Jimbo, Austin Sheets, RC Marcus, MB, Max 380, BGM 1975, Orc, Miss Ragnarok, Snoozy. Yes, we know that you're always here with us, Snoozy, but I don't know who you are on Twitter. And Blood Wolf. If you guys were named, you need to contact myself, Risk, any of us immediately on Twitter so we can cross-reference to see if you actually followed the other parts of the rules. Because just coming into the chat and saying giveaway, as the other entrants did, would not be fair to them since they followed the other parts of the very clear, defined rules.
Yeah,
So please,
I just think some of these people have got different names on Twitter as well. So if you've got a different name on Twitter as you do on YouTube, yep, definitely let us know. Sorry, Amber.
yes, please let us. That's why I'm giving you the one quick chance to really, get in contact with me. You all have at least, I'll give you an hour. I think that's more than enough time. I
Amber's
also
laying
posted
down
about
the
it.
law.
Ooh,
Yeah,
bossy
because
Umbra.
I posted a tweet about it at least 4 hours ago. So somebody had to see that if they're actually following.
Max 380 just tweeted you, mate. So we got one.
Okay. So Max 380, I'm hoping that you actually follow the other parts of the rules and everything. So I'll check to see.
Blood
so
Wolf's
anybody,
name
like I said,
on Twitter is just Liam Cook.
Yeah, we'll sort him
Cook.
out. We'll sort him out. All good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, just want to thank Asa for coming through and spitting thing game with us tonight. We know it's really late for you, brother, and we appreciate you coming through. Yeah, and thank you
Indeed,
guys too
thanks.
as my co-host and such. Absolutely. And thank you guys too, of course, for dealing with me and my singing and everything else. Even though I don't know if that's really dealing with it because I'm blessing you when I sing. So
No, it's definitely not.
okay. But well, yeah.
Look, moving on to the other outros, skipping over Pete as we're going to for the entire show. Dude, Cutie, been amazing. Thank you for coming along, giving us your tags and gracing us with your presence as you do every week. You're an amazing panel member. Please let the people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to. You'll be streaming this week, I assume. Give me your schedule, so on and so forth.
Oh yeah, okay. Yes, thank you so much, Asa. I'm sorry for keeping you up so late. What I'm playing. I need to start playing the Ninja Turtles game. I will be streaming Sims tomorrow night, 8 p.m. my time. Not sure what time that is anyone else's time. And then I'm streaming again I stream Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So yeah, usually Forza or Fortnite or usually something like that. And you can find me mostly on Twitter. I'm spending more time on Twitter than I am on Instagram these days, guys. I think I might be converted.
Yeah.
I think I might be. Although I do enjoy my Instagram fam. So find me on Twitter, DoomCutie, and find me on Twitch as DoomCutie and follow me there also.
Fantastic. And that's the end of our only kidding, Pete. Pete, thank you. Thanks for coming along every week and disagreeing with absolutely everything I say. No, it's good. It's good to have the discourse. I love this. I love it when people have a different point of view to me. It gives perspective on things. And it's definitely the way I think to have a good show when you've got people who sit on different sides of the fence and people who sit on the fence, Asa. So Jedi, let people know where they can find you, what you'll be playing, what you'll be up to for the rest of the week. And we'll try to get out of here as quick as possible because Asa got to go sleep. Wow.
Playing a bit of Turtles, still getting through Sniper. Hopefully I can meet up with Panda and play a little bit of Halo Infinite. Steph has it right in the chat. Umbra and Risket are blinded while Jedi see things clearly with his takes.
He was paid off. You paid him off. You paid him off for that, didn't you?
Bribing is frowned upon. Pete.
He's definitely,
It's
he's definitely paid.
amazing to have you again, second time round. I hope there'll be a third. Your takes are amazing, mate. Congratulations with everything you do with Game On Daily. Absolutely love seeing that show. Unfortunately, it's just on crazy times for us people down under here in Australia, but I do catch it live.
Maybe a
whenever I
second
can,
show.
mate.
A second show would be great, Asa, or move the show. I don't know. I've been hassling Gaz for months about this, but anyway, we'll talk about it later. Sorry, Jedi.
That's it, mate. I am done.
He is done.
Marissa, what are you going to play this week?
What am I going to play this at the moment? Oh, yep. No, me or Pete?
No, you.
No, me. Okay, I'm going to be playing.
You always ask the questions.
I'm going to be playing Turtle Shredders, which I already am, which is absolutely amazing. If you ever played it in the arcade, if you're an old fogey like me, or like Pete, who's actually 102, if you've ever played it in the arcade, it's pretty much exactly the same, and it's amazing. They've added a few more things in, so that game's awesome. definitely get on that game. That's in Game Pass right now. I'll be continuing with Gears Tactics. And there was another game coming out, I think, this week from the showcase as well, the online massive multiplayer. I'll probably give that a crack and see what that's up to. But that's pretty much our show. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I would be remiss if I didn't say to the chat, if I didn't hang on to you
One
guys.
more thing, mate.
Yep.
Good luck to everyone in the giveaway.
Absolutely.
Sincerely.
Absolutely. And I would be remiss if I didn't say to the chat, you guys are absolutely amazing. You kept the show running. We love seeing you each week. That chat is growing. You guys are coming through and it's amazing. So it means that you are doing what I keep asking everyone to do, which is like, subscribe, share it out, let your friends know. There's too many of you to name, but the new names, thank you for turning up and supporting us. The old names who have supported us from the beginning. We love you guys. All of you guys. Thank you very much. We are out of here. Why am I American now? That's weird.
Later, guys.
Peace.